Chapter 867. After the news was released, many rulers of the celestial nations came one after another, not daring to be negligent. After all, the power of the 10 stars was still there. Who would dare to go against the Fengtian divine nation? The Fengtian divine nation had always been famous, but as time went by, they started to decline, and their prestige started to diminish. But overall, they were still quite terrifying. They were a little afraid, but they had to come to the Fengtian imperial capital. They were not afraid outside. Now that Yi Tianyun had displayed his terrifying power, they did not dare to resist at all. If they resisted, the 10 stars would suppress them, and their imperial capital would immediately be reduced to ashes. Their strongest force was gone. What else could they use to fight? The most prosperous place was the imperial capital. Now that the imperial capital was gone, how could they resist? Soon, they gathered one by one. The lowest level was the empire, and no third-rank forces came. It was not that they looked down on the third-rank forces, but there were too many of them, and it was undoubtedly much simpler for the empire to give the order. King Yi, why have you gathered us this time? They all looked over, but they looked at Yi Tianyun more, because the one who really shocked them was not Yi Yuanlong, but Yi Tianyun. They knew that the real power was Yi Tianyun, not Yi Yuanlong. Let our second elder explain. Yi Yuanlong gestured to Yi Tianyun to explain the situation. The situation is relatively simple. The evil spirit race is preparing to invade. We do not know how strong the enemy is, but they are definitely not weak. At least one of them is above the God King stage. Yi Tianyun said seriously. More than one God King. And this is still a conservative estimate? They were all dumbfounded, and their faces turned green and white. This was quite a shocking thing. They could see the shock in each other's eyes. If that was really the case, they would be in great danger. Yes, this is only a conservative estimate, and it might be more. Previously, we sent 2 batches of experts to attack, but they were stopped. The third batch this time would only be larger than the previous batch. When I said one God King stage expert, I just wanted you to be mentally prepared. According to my estimation, there are at least 3 of them. Yi Tianyun said calmly, maybe even the late stage. Maybe even the 8th or 9th level of the God King stage will appear. As for Saint King stage cultivators, they are like cabbages in the market. This wasn't a joke during the meeting. It was possible that there would be more than 3 God King stage cultivators. Saint King stage cultivators would definitely be as common as cabbages. He guessed that there were at least dozens of Saint King stage powerhouses. For the 3 realms, Saint King stage powerhouses are relatively rare, but for the outside world, they are equivalent to cabbages that can be found everywhere. They looked at each other, not knowing what to say. The impact of this news was too great for them. He had thought that the heaven-sealing God nation would say something, such as an integration plan, but who would have thought that they would say something so terrifying? Then how much time do we have to prepare for this? One of the kings asked a crucial question. The longest is 4 months, the shortest is 1 month, Yi Tianyun said honestly. What? Everyone stood up in shock and couldn't even sit on their chairs. This time was too short, so short that they couldn't believe it. Thinking that they would arrive here in such a short time, everyone panicked. If it was an ordinary evil spirit race, they certainly wouldn't worry, but in the face of so many God Kings and Saint King stage cultivators, how could they not panic? Elder Yi, is there any basis for this? One of the kings had a dignified look on his face. He felt that this news came too fast and too strange. He couldn't believe it. When I went to the evil spirit race's hideout, I found out about it through soul searching. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Maybe they are just imagining things. In fact, it's not that fast. One of the kings comforted himself. Even if it takes a year or a half, or even 10 years, they will eventually come. Yi Tianyun looked at him coldly and said. We are preparing in advance, what's wrong with that? Everyone looked at each other and saw the different expressions in each other's eyes. Some of them didn't believe it, some were shocked, Some were afraid, there were all kinds of emotions. Among them, there were some who didn't believe it. They all thought that Tianyun wanted to take advantage of this crisis to control the power in his hands. However, they didn't say it out loud, they all chose to nod. Now I suggest that everyone prepare, the detailed strategy is up to you to decide. After all, this time the enemy is coming aggressively, they may come through any area, we must know where to come from, so that we can prepare a strategy. Tianyun directly threw the specific strategy to them, Yuanlong and other senior generation leaders to decide. It's not that he is a hands-off leader, but many of the people present know how to arrange the strategy. After all, this time he is not fighting alone, but the entire heaven realm. But I suggest that you must follow the instructions of Fengtian Divine Kingdom. Tianyun said the most important point. Without a leader to control everything, it is easy to fall into chaos, so it is necessary to distribute the work. What you want, we have to give you. One of the kings couldn't help but ask. Yes, Tianyun said simply. I object to this. If you abuse your power and transfer our resources, when the time comes, we won't be able to attack, won't we suffer a great loss? One of the kings thought of this matter and felt very unhappy. When we formed the alliance, I said that we need absolute power, don't you know that? Tianyun looked at him coldly. But we can't do that, if we listen to you completely, won't we be finished? Yes. I also support King Lu Yu, if all our resources are transferred, won't we suffer a great loss? They expressed their dissatisfaction, thinking that they might abuse their power and transfer all their resources. If you don't listen, you can get out of the alliance now, when the time comes, don't come begging us on your knees. Tianyun's eyes turned cold, and he directly said. He can't be bothered to use the title of world savior to suppress them, it is up to them, if they don't come, then scram. Good. You said it, maybe it is all nonsense, not the truth, you are just taking advantage of the crisis to scare us, so that you can steal our resources. If we want to leave, then leave, we won't regret it. Chapter 868. Sure, if you want to leave, you can leave now. By then, we won't care about your situation. You can do whatever you want. Our Fengtian Divine Kingdom is not a savior, so we can't care so much. Tianyun waved his hand and couldn't be bothered to say anything more to them. They had clearly agreed on it before, but now they were rebounding. This is not beyond Tianyun's expectation, after all, it's hard to gather them with coercion, the cohesion is too weak. If they had only agreed because of threats, it would be even more dangerous. Therefore, Tianyun couldn't be bothered with them. He was not a savior. Since someone wanted to die, they couldn't blame him. We don't care. We've been here for so long. The evil spirit race might not even dare to come. Yes. It's a waste of time if we leave now. With one person objecting, the others became bolder and left the alliance. They didn't plan to join this alliance. In the blink of an eye, 4 or 5 country lords chose to leave the alliance. However, this was only a small portion. Most of them didn't choose to leave. They chose to wait and see or were willing to listen to Tianyun. Tianyun glanced at them coldly. These country lords' rankings were not low. Some were even in the top 10 forces country lords. Among them, the country lords who were previously in the top 2 chose to sit there calmly and didn't say a word. They either chose to wait and see or not choose to leave. Have a safe trip. Tianyun gestured for them to leave. There was no need to keep these kinds of people. They would be unsociable in the future. Let's go. The 4 or 5 country lords weren't willing to hand over their divine kingdoms to outsiders. They also didn't want to listen to Tianyun and the others' orders. They especially didn't believe Tianyun's words. It might be a conspiracy, a reason to openly plunder resources. They definitely weren't willing to do this. They would only think that those who stayed were fools. They were the real smart ones. After they left, Tianyun looked at the king who continued to stay and said calmly, who else wants to leave? If you continue to stay here, it means that you're acknowledging what I've just said. All orders must be obeyed. We will definitely obey the sky-sealing godly kingdom's orders. The late emperor has already instructed us to obey the sky-sealing godly kingdom's orders. The ruler of the first-rank tyrannical godly kingdom smiled faintly, indicating that he was willing to stand beside Yi Tianyun. We are also willing to stand by the heaven-sealing divine kingdom's side. The late emperor also warned us. The ruler of the moon dragon god kingdom, who was previously ranked second, also chose to stand on their side in a friendly manner. The other rulers who wanted to leave were shocked. They had not expected the top two rulers to follow the lead of the Fengtian divine kingdom. Why was it the previous rankings? Now that Yi Tianyun had displayed his strength, the rankings had changed. In everyone's hearts, Yi Tianyun's side was the strongest celestial kingdom in the heavenly realm. Now that two celestial kingdoms had chosen sides, some of the rulers who had been hesitating immediately made up their minds and chose to listen to the sky-sealing godly kingdom's orders. It seems like you guys trust me. Yi Tianyun smiled. That's right. The late emperor has always said that the sky-sealing godly kingdom is the leader of the heavenly realm. Be it in the past or now, it is the leader of the heavenly realm. Since that's the case, how can we disobey? Each of them spoke better than they sang. Yi Tianyun narrowed his eyes as he observed their expressions. He knew that they were all vixens. They were just trying to figure out the big picture. Everything would depend on the situation in the future. For now, they had made their decision. It would be the stupidest thing to do if their relationship became strained. I know that all of you have some doubts in your hearts. Or perhaps, you think that we will plunder your resources openly. Yi Tianyun said indifferently, to be honest, the sky-sealing godly kingdom is not interested in your resources. The main thing is to integrate and support each other when the time comes. Otherwise, when the time comes, no matter how many resources we have, they will all be used by the evil spirit race. No matter what they were thinking, Yi Tianyun was unable to see through them. However, being able to stay and listen to their instructions was the best outcome. Of course. All of the kings nodded. They had never seen the terror of the evil spirit race before, but their ancestors had recorded it. Just this point alone was very clear. Following that, Yi Tianyun handed the authority to speak to Yi Yuanlong, and explained the general situation. Very quickly, the meeting ended. Yi Tianyun did not continue to stay here, but immediately rushed to the mortal realm and the netherworld to announce this matter. Before leaving, Yi Tianyun urged them to continue to increase their efforts to exterminate the evil spirit race. Exterminating all of the evil spirit race in the heaven realm was the most important thing at the moment. Others might not know if the evil spirit race had been exterminated or not, but Yi Tianyun was very clear about it. After all, the mission had not been completed, so of course the evil spirit race had not been exterminated. Although those people had left the alliance, because they had already formed an alliance before, the completion rate of the mission would not decrease. Otherwise, he was afraid that his experience would be reduced, and his mission completion rate would also be reduced. Very quickly, when he arrived at the mortal realm to announce this matter, everything went very smoothly. They immediately began to prepare to resist the evil spirit race. No one chose to leave or did not believe it. The netherworld was even simpler, it was as if it was their own home. After the announcement, all of them agreed with Yi Tianyun's words. If they wanted any resources, they would take them out without a second thought. The difference was simply too great. The main reason was that the heaven realm had suffered too little damage from the evil spirit race. The mortal realm and the netherworld had suffered more severe damage, and they all knew how terrifying the evil spirit race was. That was why they listened to Yi Tianyun's orders. It seemed that sometimes, when people were too comfortable, it would be difficult for them to unite. Alright, the rest is more or less done. Yi Tianyun stared at the sky. His next mission was to check the entrance passageway to the three realms. Of course, The three realms had an entrance passageway, but if one wanted to leave, they would not be able to leave the three realms without powerful strength or powerful treasures. This was like being trapped in a cage. Without strength, there was no way to break out of this cage. Then, he stomped on the ground and turned into a sharp arrow that flew into the sky. The area he was currently in was the mortal realm. The mortal realm had a passageway out, but it was usually tightly shut. It should be said that there was originally a passageway out of any place. It was just that under the combined efforts of the three divine kings, the divine inscriptions had enveloped a large area of the sky. This was equivalent to forming a protective barrier to resist the invasion of outsiders. Chapter 869. After the passageway was opened, a whirlpool-like passageway appeared. Tianyun quickly drilled into it. After entering the passageway, not far ahead, there was a pitch-black hole that seemed to lead to an unknown region. He quickly flew forward. After passing through the passageway, he saw a pitch-black world. Outside, there were countless stars and planets floating in the sky. This is the outside of the three realms, there is no air at all. But this is not a problem for him. Around him, there are countless boulders floating on the side, there are also several pitch-black whirlpools. This pitch-black whirlpool gave him a feeling that if he drilled into it, he would die without a doubt. Outside this whirlpool, there are countless boulders, forming a wall, surrounding it. After he flew out, he turned his head to look back. In front of him is a huge planet, but this planet looks very strange, it is actually divided into three layers. This is the three realms, the top is the heaven realm, the middle is the mortal realm, and the bottom is the netherworld. The layers are stacked together, and now they are all covered by layers of thick clouds. From here, he can clearly see the situation inside. After breaking through to the God King stage, Tianyun's various aspects have greatly improved, and his eyes can see further. Now, he can clearly see that Shuyan is busy with other things. Many god kingdoms of the netherworld are constantly gathering, setting up teleportation points in various places. Teleportation points definitely need to be set up, and it also needs a lot of effort. This is the reason why they formed an alliance. Every region needs to set up teleportation points. No matter how you fly, you will definitely not be faster than teleportation points. With the support of teleportation points, it will be much faster, far faster than flying. The mortal realm's protection is indeed a bit weaker. Tianyun looked up and down at the protective barrier. Although the mortal realm's protective barrier has many layers of protection, it is still a bit weaker overall. The main problem is that under the pressure of the heaven realm and the netherworld, the middle layer has some pressure, making the spiritual power thin, causing it to be more fragile. Because of this, the three god kings continuously strengthened the mortal realm's protective barrier, making it stronger. But no matter how much they strengthen it, it can't be stronger than the other two realms. Tianyun looked at the heaven realm and the netherworld realm. The heaven realm was made up of 10 stars that covered a large area. At the same time, it formed a protective array that firmly enveloped the heavenly realm. The underworld was the weakest region on the side. There was an ancient underworld divine pagoda there. Once one got close to it, they would be sucked in immediately. Tianyun could feel the strong suction force. Anyone who approached would be immediately sucked in. It would not differentiate between friend or foe. As for the other areas, they were much tougher and more difficult to break through. The main thing was that there were layers of thick barriers that were difficult to break through. However, just because it was difficult to pierce through didn't mean that it couldn't be pierced. He just needed to put in a bit more effort to do so. However, this barrier wasn't just for defense. It could also be used to counterattack. If a few Divine King stage experts came, I'm afraid they could easily break this barrier. Tianyun shook his head. He didn't think it would be difficult. If a Divine King stage expert came this time, it wouldn't be a problem for them to break this barrier. This was basically equivalent to an empty shell and had no effect at all. I just hope that the one who came this time is a bit weaker. Tianyun sighed. He looked at the well-constructed three realms. This was the best defense left by the three divine kings before they left. Then, he turned his head and looked outside. It was pitch black outside and there were rocks everywhere. Logically speaking, it was impossible to find this place. After all, it was blocked by all kinds of rocks. Moreover, the seemingly terrifying pitch-black whirlpool could be used as a natural defense. Yi Tianyun flew over quickly. There was no resistance at all. He flew forward easily. Along the way, he looked around. Finally, he found a relatively safe way out of the pile of rocks. There were so many places, but there was only one place that he could enter and leave at will. If he flew randomly in other places, he would be smashed by the rocks or sucked into the black whirlpool. At that time, he would definitely die. Yi Tianyun looked at the black whirlpool and the appraisal I showed him the detailed information. Black whirlpool, extremely strong suction force. After being sucked in, if your cultivation is not strong enough, you will be easily torn into pieces. Warning, warning. The black whirlpool is extremely dangerous, do not go near it. It even issued a warning, which meant that with his current strength, if he went near it, he would definitely die. This black whirlpool is really terrifying. It's probably caused by space shattering. If I go near it, I'll definitely die. Yi Tianyun turned his gaze back to the entrance. It was still covered with a layer of divine inscriptions, blocking the entrance. From the outside, it looked like there was no entrance, and he couldn't see the situation of the three realms. Without a doubt, this was a formation set up by the three divine kings before they left to prevent intruders from discovering it. However, the current situation seemed to be meaningless. The formation had been mostly destroyed, and the effect was negligible. It was obvious that it was destroyed by the second batch of evil spirit race. They probably flew towards the netherworld as soon as they arrived, but who knew that they would be sucked in? Let's set up a formation here first. Yi Tianyun quickly flew to the gap and landed among the rocks. He started to carve divine inscriptions to set up a formation. Very quickly, he carved a bewildering formation here, temporarily blocking the entrance. He knew that with his current level, he would not be able to deceive the evil spirit race perfectly. The evil spirit race clearly knew about the stronghold here, so it was useless no matter how hard they tried to hide it. They already knew the location of this place, so there was no way they could hide it. What he needed now was to make a mark. If someone destroyed this place, he would be alerted immediately. This was the main point, so that he would know that someone had barged in, and he would immediately declare war. At that time, he would kill his way out and fight with them fiercely, reducing as much as he could. It's done. Yi Tianyun took a deep breath. He had set up several divine inscription formations here, sealing this place tightly. It was not an easy task to set up a formation on these rocks. They would often fly around randomly. If it were to hit someone, the impact would not be inferior to being hit by a God King stage expert. On the way, he had been smashed several times. If it wasn't for his thick skin, he would have been smashed into a meat patty. After checking again and confirming that there were no problems, he flew back and did not stay here any longer. Right now, he was waiting for the evil spirit race to come and prepare for a battle to the death. Chapter 870. After setting up the Great Array, Yi Tianyun quickly returned to the heaven world and began to search for the evil spirit race. He wanted to complete all the quests now. He doesn't want to complicate things, he just wants to solve the internal problems first. However, the heaven realm is basically mobilized, most of the cultivators have gone to search for the evil spirit race. This is the order issued by him, it is equivalent to the order issued by the Fengtian divine nation, so the search is very crazy. After a week of searching, all the evil spirit race who were hiding in the heaven realm were finally eliminated. This process is really difficult, they hid one by one, and they hid in several places. The main reason is that Yi Tianyun destroyed the evil spirit race's nest before, so they hurriedly looked for a place to hide, who knows where they can hide from the entire heaven realm. They are indeed hiding very deep, but because Yi Tianyun joined the search, everything became simple. At most it will take some time. Ding! Completed main quest, unify the heaven realm, eradicate all the evil spirit race in the heaven realm. Reward, 60 billion EXP, 6 million crazy points, 800,000 SPS. And obtained a new title, King of Heaven Realm. King of Heaven Realm, damage increased by 10 times in the Heaven Realm. The effect of the title does not change, it's just the difference in the region. Overall, it is very useful. Relying on this, his combat power can be multiplied many times. Ding! Successfully accepted the Three Realms ultimate quest, resist the invaders, destroy them, and complete the true unification of the Three Realms. Reward, 200 billion EXP, 10 million crazy points, 10 million SPS, 10 million proficiency points. And the three titles will be combined into a new title, God of the Three Realms. Ultimate Quest. Yi Tianyun's eyes narrowed. This reward is really tempting, it is the most reward in the history of the Three Realms Ultimate Quest. But this is the first time he has seen the Three Realms Ultimate Quest. Does it mean that it is the final quest in the Three Realms? It seems that now is the time to wait for the war to come. This war can only be won, not lost. Yi Tianyun's eyes flickered and he immediately started to make preparations, such as forging weapons and setting up a large array with them. The Three Realms entered an unprecedented state of unity. All of this was brought about by Yi Tianyun. It had been a long time since they had such a strong sense of unity. Time passed quickly. 1 month passed, then 2 months. Everyone's hearts were stretched taut, and they didn't relax at all. It was the same for Yi Tianyun as well. He had set up countless formations, and even forged many weapons. All the resources were provided to him for him to forge. Due to this change, the proficiency of his 3 specializations soared crazily. In the end, he actually stepped into the domain of the creator. Ding! Congratulations on successfully stepping into the final level, Creator Crafting Expert. Ding! As you have successfully upgraded all 3 professions to the ultimate level, you have obtained the title, All-Round Expert. All-Round Ability User, regardless of level, success rate increased by 20%. There's such a thing. After Yi Tianyun obtained the ultimate level, Creator, this omnipotent mastery emerged. However, he didn't care. Anyway, the things he was forging now were all within the scope, and he didn't need to be very strong. Right now, he was mainly forging divine weapons, and he didn't forge divine weapons much. He mainly forged divine weapons. After all, the materials for divine weapons were too rare. The materials used to forge divine weapons could be used to forge dozens of divine weapons. Although divine weapons were much stronger than divine weapons, this was a group battle, and they needed to improve their overall strength, not individual strength. However, those with strong cultivations would definitely have to use divine weapons to fight. He was a little selfish, so he wanted the mortal realm to be slightly more well-equipped. The main reason was that the mortal realm was relatively weak, so he needed to take care of it. Although the mortal realm was weak, it was the most difficult place to enter. This seemed contradictory, but in fact, it wasn't. This was because when one approached it, it was very easy to be swallowed by the ancient Ming Divine Pagoda, or be suppressed by the 10 stars. This meant that if one wanted to force his way in, he would first have to break through the ancient Ming Divine Pagoda and the 10 stars. The 3 divine kings were not fools, they already knew that the mortal realm was dangerous, so it was impossible not to strengthen it. They didn't need to strengthen anything in the mortal realm, as long as they strengthened the heaven realm and the ghost realm, it was a compromise. The weakness of the mortal realm was too obvious, and even with their ability, they couldn't easily change it, so they could only choose to solve it in this way. The mortal realm was fragile, and it was destined that there wouldn't be too many strong cultivators left in this space, which meant that if too many strong cultivators came in, it would easily lead to the destruction of the world. Now that the rules were stabilized, those who were slightly above the Spirit King stage would choose to leave the mortal realm. Unlike before, there would be a very strong cultivator in the mortal realm. Of course, unless there was a situation like the last time, where an old man's blood chi was insufficient and his life was about to end, he wouldn't be forced to go to another space. Therefore, Yi Tianyun was slightly biased towards the mortal realm. There was nothing that was absolutely impenetrable, so he had to strengthen it, otherwise, there would definitely be problems. Chapter 871. After the huge spirit ship crashed into the three realms, the evil spirit race's eyes suddenly lit up when they saw the three realms in front of them. It's indeed a good domain, the concentration of spiritual power is a bit low, but the core is quite perfect. If we dig out the core, the Lord will definitely be happy. General Long Ti's eyes lit up. Of course, they didn't care about the resources here, let alone the cultivation place here. These training grounds were not even 1/10 as good as their own. What they wanted was the core of the three realms. This core was the core that maintained the operation of the three realms. The result was obvious, the three realms would completely collapse. At that time, it would be difficult for all living beings to survive in the outside world. If they wanted to survive in the outside world, they would need to have a very strong cultivation. At this level, they would need to be at least at the Spirit King stage to survive in the outside world temporarily. This was a temporary survival, not a permanent one. It couldn't even survive for a long time. This was the reason why the three divine kings set up a barrier to prevent them from going out at will. In the beginning, there must have been people who flew out at will, but they didn't go far before they died. They couldn't fly very far with just their body alone. The speed of Spirit King stage was too slow, and it was estimated that they would die halfway before they could reach the next planet realm. Not only was the distance too far, but there were also many dangers around, just the rocks alone were enough to smash them into meat patties. Therefore, the three divine kings only allowed those with God King stage cultivation to go out, and those with lower cultivation would not be able to go out. According to this situation, if the core was dug out, less than 1% of the cultivators would survive temporarily. As for those who could really survive, it was estimated that less than 1% would survive. Yi Tianyun had seen it from the outside, there was basically no life in the outside world. Even if they escaped from the stone array, it was still not safe outside. As for where the next domain with life would be, who knows? At the same time, Yi Tianyun had already come out of the three realms, and when he saw the spirit ship that had turned into a sharp arrow, his pupils shrank. Spirit ship, unknown grade, unknown effect, unknown ability. Combat power, 1 trillion. The power of a spirit ship had already reached the level of God King stage 8th or 9th layer, reaching the effect of 1 trillion. His appraisal eyes was still unable to analyze the effects within, this was what made Yi Tianyun shocked. It seemed that he would have to upgrade his probing eyes in order to learn more. This spirit ship in front of him had already surpassed his understanding. This meant that this was no longer a divine artifact, but an existence of a higher level than a divine artifact. It seemed like the evil spirit race was definitely going all out to take down the three realms. Unknown spirit ship, intercept it. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed and the evil spirit divine sword appeared in his hand. This was currently his strongest weapon. The rest of his weapons were mid-grade divine artifacts, but they were not divine artifacts. He had to intercept it ahead of time. If he allowed this spirit ship to pass through, it would absolutely pierce through the entire three realms. General, a human has appeared in front of us. His cultivation should be at the early God King stage, not too high. The intelligence officer said immediately. Reckless human. I can't be bothered to pay attention to him. Just a slight scratch and he'll be reduced to ashes. General Longte sneered and looked down on the human cultivator who had just appeared. In his opinion, the cultivators in these places were just aborigines. What kind of power could they have? Immediately after, the spirit ship increased its power and pierced through at the speed of light. It wanted to ignore Yi Tianyun who was in front of it and pierce through the three realms. After entering the piercing mode, its combat power began to soar. It was no longer the previous 1 trillion but 1.3 trillion. It was a full 300 billion increase in combat power. How terrifying. Don't even think about it. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold as he activated the berserk mode in his body. His combat power instantly exploded. 32 times damage mode, activate, 800 billion combat power. 900 billion combat power. 1 trillion combat power. 1.3 trillion combat power. 1.5 trillion combat power. 1.8 trillion combat power. Finally, under the stacking of 35 times damage, its combat power exploded to 1.8 trillion combat power. It directly crushed the spirit ship's explosive power. A tyrannical aura was released from his body, causing the surrounding space to distort. It was about to collapse from the pressure of this power. This was the level of most of his explosive power, and it was not the limit. If he stayed in the 3 realms, he could increase the damage by 10 times, but he had to stop the invaders outside to minimize the damage. At the same time, his body began to grow crazily, turning into a huge evil spirits. The berserk black flames raged in all directions. He wanted to ensure that all the evil spirit races that lived in this space could be easily exterminated by him. Immediately, he rushed forward, raised the evil spirit divine sword in his hand and heavily slashed down. Evil spirit's world-breaking slash. A deep roar came from his throat. A massive black sword light shot forwards, turning into a long black whip that wanted to cut the spirit ship in half. This power, how is it possible? The evil spirit controlling the spirit ship was shocked, and immediately shouted to his companions, "Quickly, quickly! Quickly increase the power to the maximum, this power is beyond the power of the spirit ship." But everything was too late, the eruption was just a matter of a snap of the fingers, and the black whip heavily lashed out. Boom! The terrifying power exploded on the spirit ship, but it did not cut the spirit ship in half, instead, it was heavily whipped out. The spirit ship twisted wildly in the air, covered with black flames, constantly rolling upwards, swallowing the spirit ship. The penetrative strength within directly broke through the defenses of the spirit ship, constantly suppressing it. Pucci, one by one, the evil spirits madly vomited blood. Even if they did not die, they were seriously injured. Many of them were relatively close to the edge, and were directly killed. These were all evil spirits at the Saint King stage, and under such a shock, they exploded into a blood mist. But this was not the end. Yi Tianyun's figure flashed, and quickly came to the side, and once again fiercely lashed out, without the slightest intention of stopping. Take advantage of the enemy's weakness. With another heavy whip, the spirit ship was sent flying again, and many of the evil spirits inside were blown into a blood mist. But the spirit ship was still not damaged, and only 2 deep marks could be seen on it, but the spirit ship did not explode. This spirit ship was too hard, it was simply terrifying. Chapter 872. When Yi Tianyun wanted to send the spirit ship flying again, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. The figure stretched out his hand and flicked the spirit ship, and the spirit ship's black sword light was shattered into countless black lights. Yi Tianyun's eyes widened in shock. He was confident that this move could even suppress a peak God King stage cultivator. Yi Tianyun's eyes widened in astonishment when he saw Yi Tianyun's attack. This meant that the opponent that appeared had a cultivation base that was not as simple as it seemed. General Long, cultivation unknown, martial arts unknown, weaknesses unknown, equipment unknown, overall battle power, 2 trillion battle power, under burst mode, 2 trillion combat power. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. The General Long Tay in front of him no longer has 8 arms, but 10. This means that this level of cultivation is not God King stage, but a higher level of cultivation. An existence stronger than God King stage, what level of cultivation is that? Yi Tianyun doesn't know, his current appraisal I can't detect it, unless he upgrades it to update the information. However, upgrading requires a lot of crazy point, so it's not necessary for him to do so for the time being. He would rather use it to upgrade other martial arts or divine skills, it's more cost-effective. Appraisal Eye is nothing more than a detailed display of the opponent's data. This is a great help in battle. But for the time being, he only needs to know the opponent's combat power, a full 2 trillion combat power. His astonishing cultivation, coupled with his astonishing equipment, created a terrifying combat power. Sure enough, an extremely powerful existence has appeared. Yi Tianyun is not timid, instead, he is full of fighting spirit, ready to fight. General Long Tae looked at him up and down with a serious expression. He didn't expect such a powerful existence to appear here. If he didn't come out to stop the attack, his spirit ship would have been destroyed, especially when all the people he brought are dead. What's the point of fighting anymore? I didn't expect there to be such a strong existence here, no wonder they died here. General Long Tae looked at him coldly and said, but it's over. You've killed so many of our people. Even if you kneel and beg for mercy now, and choose to surrender, you must die. Are all of you from the evil spirit race so arrogant? Yi Tianyun and General Long Tae looked at each other, their eyes filled with killing intent. Whether I'm arrogant or not, won't you find out later? General Long Tae shouted. Charge in, break through the defenses of this area. Reporting to General, the operators of the spirit ship have either died or been severely wounded. We have no way of controlling it. Someone immediately said with a sound transmission. Bastard! General Long Tae's eyes turned cold, and he immediately shouted, all troops, advance. Kill your way down and occupy this area. As soon as he said that, countless evil spirit races experts rushed out of the spirit ship. The weakest among them was at the Spirit King stage, while the strongest was at the God King stage. Yi Tianyun swept his gaze across and immediately understood the general situation. There were 3 God King stage cultivators who had come out. There were more than 100 Saint King stage cultivators and more than 1,000 Spirit King stage cultivators. If General Long Tae was included, it would be equivalent to a powerful army, enough to suppress the existence of any force. It was not as friendly as Yi Tianyun thought. There were too many experts sent out, so it was not a problem for them to occupy the 3 realms. But that was before. Now that they had Yi Tianyun, they were fully prepared. Yes. A deafening sound came from above, and a vast energy fluctuation spread throughout the area, and immediately, they rushed towards the 3 realms. Without any hesitation, Yi Tianyun swung his sword towards the evil spirit race that was rushing towards him. A black light flashed crazily as Yi Tianyun swung his sword at dozens of Saint King stage experts. The evil spirit set's amazing long-range effect could kill these beasts from afar. Evil spirit devour the heavens. General Long Tae gently waved his 10 arms, and a huge evil spirit appeared beside him. The evil spirit's ferocious expression made it look like a real demon. Then it turned into a wall, blocking Yi Tianyun's attack. Boom! 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 After the violent attacks hit the evil spirits, they exploded one after another, but it didn't show which side was stronger. But it means that Yi Tianyun can't cause any damage to them, so he can only let them rush down. Your strength is not bad, but it's still not enough. Your opponent is me. General Long Tae took out a huge magic staff. They all like to use magic staff very much. It's just a simple stick, but the level of this magic staff can be seen. It's a high-rank divine artifact. General Long Tae deserves to be called a great general attack. His equipment is too good, it's too good to be true. He could tell that it was a superior grade god artifact just by casually taking out a weapon. The difference between them was not small at all. Is that so? Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed, and he quickly released his doppelgangers. The 3 doppelgangers quickly rushed towards the Saint King stage cultivators, and directly went into a crazy killing mode. How can this be? General Long Tae's pupils shrank when he saw the doppelgangers. He picked up his magic staff and waved it towards the doppelgangers, wanting to smash them. As he waved his wand, it released a dazzling black light. Combined with his extreme strength, countless ghoulish skeletons surged out and flew forward at high speed. Each ghoulish skeleton was powerful enough to destroy heaven and earth. When they came into contact with the rocks, they were easily swallowed. When they were about to bite Yi Tianyun's doppelgangers, a dark sword light shot out at an even faster speed, carrying a red energy. Boom! Those evil spirit skeletons were cut in half just like that, and the overbearing sword light still penetrated forward, killing a large number of evil spirit race powerhouses who wanted to drill into the three realms. Didn't you say that your opponent is me? Yi Tianyun's whole body exuded the aura of the dragon god bloodline was stimulated by him, and his power once again superimposed, reaching an incredible battle power. Especially when he triggered the critical hit effect just now, his battle power directly exploded to 2.3 trillion, reaching an unprecedented heaven-defying battle power. How can he still become stronger? Wasn't that his limit just now? General Long Ti's face sank. He thought that Yi Tianyun's previous move was already the limit. He didn't expect that it could continue to increase. It was beyond his expectations. Chapter 873. Ding! Successfully killed evil spirit race, 3rd layer Saint King stage, gained 26.5 billion EXP, 1. 4 million crazy point, 200,000 SPS. Obtained evil spirit blood, evil spirit bone, evil spirit soul. Ding! Successfully killed evil spirit race, 2nd layer Saint King stage, gained 23.3 billion EXP, 1. 2 million crazy point, 1. 5 million SPS, ding. Successfully killed evil spirit race, 4th layer Saint King stage, gained, ding. Yi Tianyun basically bought all the EXP cards he had, including Crazy Point card, Sin Value card, and Crazy Point card. Among them, the EXP card was 345 times, plus 32 times, it was 377 times. As for the other Crazy Point, it was more than 20 times, enough to reach Crazy Point. With so many Saint King stage and Spirit King stage experts, how could he let them go? If he wanted to go crazy, he had to go crazy and use all the EXP cards he had. He knew that the gap between him and General Long Tae was not small, and he could even feel that General Long Tae had not used his full strength yet. If he didn't increase his cultivation, it would be difficult to make up for the gap between them. Just relying on crazy mode was not enough. Although returning to the three realms would increase the damage by 10 times, if he could, he didn't want to fight in the three realms. After all, this was a battle between God King stage experts. He didn't want to see the three realms become full of holes even if he won. The three clones killed the evil spirit race in a frenzy. But no matter how crazy they were, there were only 3 clones, the rest of them were too lazy to care about their companions and rushed towards the three realms. Their order was to occupy the three realms, not to support their companions. Soon, many Spirit King stage evil spirit race and Saint King stage evil spirit race crazily approached the three realms. But when they were about to get close, a huge dragon roared and fiercely swung its tail, sending a group of evil spirit race away. Those who were hit by the tail directly exploded. If you want to go in, you have to pass me first. The one who came out was the Dragon King. He had transformed into a true dragon, and his huge body was enough to defend the heaven realm. On the other side of the netherworld, another figure suddenly charged out. This figure was an old man with a walking stick in his hand. He looked like he was about to step into a coffin at any moment. I never thought that I would be able to participate in such a great war in my lifetime. I kind of missed the time when I fought with the ancient underworld godly king. The one who came out was a godly king of the underworld. However, even if he had broken through to the godly king stage, his lifespan was almost up. In fact, he wasn't technically a god king stage cultivator, just like the old ancestor who had broken through to the saint king stage before, he couldn't increase his cultivation. Because they had not truly broken through, their lifespans did not increase much. However, in terms of the power they grasped, they were indeed infinitely close to a god king. After he appeared, his body blossomed with heavenly fire, burning his own body. Soon, he transformed into an incomparably young body. In the blink of an eye, he had turned into a handsome young man, and the walking stick in his hand had turned into a sword. Intruder, die. His gaze turned into a sharp sword as he swung the long sword in his hand, reaping lives in an attempt to stop their invasion. This old man, Tianyun, had investigated him before, but he was buried underground and sleeping. Since he didn't come out to harm the world, Tianyun didn't pay attention to him. When he felt the invasion of the outside world, he woke up from his sleep and exerted the last bit of his strength. The other side had a strong combat power, but they also didn't give up. Each one was crazier than the other, and they were absolutely willing to sacrifice their lives. It seems that your fighting spirit is quite strong, but do you think that we only have these few people? General Longtae sneered, crush them for me. At this time, a large number of Saint King stage powerhouses suddenly rushed out of the spirit ship. 100. 200. 300. More than 300 Saint King stage powerhouses rushed out one after another, and each of them was not weak, all of them had reached the late Saint King stage. However, they looked really weak and didn't have the same imposing aura as their other companions. It was obvious that they had consumed too much energy on the way here, which led to this situation. There was no doubt that these Saint King stage powerhouses had consumed their energy on the spirit ship, causing this situation to occur. Now that they had no choice but to rush out and fight. Devour all of them to replenish our energy. Their eyes lit up, they were already hungry and thirsty, they wanted to devour all the life in the three realms. If they devour all of them, they will definitely recover a lot of energy. The number of Saint King stage powerhouses was already terrifying enough, but now there were suddenly 300 more Saint King stage powerhouses, it really made them dumbfounded. What can they do now? Are there so many Saint King stage powerhouses in the three realms? The answer is no, at most there are more than 100 of them, no more than that. There are more than 300 Saint King stage powerhouses here, it's like there are cabbages in the market. Tianyun's heart suddenly trembled when he saw this. If all of them rushed in, no matter how many defenses there are, it will be difficult to stop them. Once they all go in, it will turn into a terrible massacre. Purchase Sword Saint Set. Ding, successfully purchased Sword Saint Set, deducted 1 million sin points. Sword Saint Set, 50 pieces of equipment, the user can transform into a Sword Saint, all swords within a radius of 10 miles below high-grade sacred tool can be controlled by the user, up to 10,000 swords can be controlled. Sword Array, 10,000 swords unite as one, consumes 100,000 crazy points to detonate all weapons, bursting out the power of all weapons to kill the enemy. This is a set of equipment at the same level as the Evil Spirit set, because it's mainly used in group battles, he has never used it. But now it's different, he must exchange for so many Evil Spirit race cultivators, otherwise he won't be able to kill so many Evil Spirit race cultivators. Give me the equipment. Tianyun instantly equipped the Sword Saint set, his body immediately turned into a white robe, the original appearance of the evil spirits turned into a Sword Saint, 2 sword lights appeared in his eyes. Sword, come! Shio shio shio! Tens of thousands of holy tools rushed out of the three realms, at the same time, many holy tools flew out of his storage ring, he was already prepared. He knew that the other party will definitely send a lot of people, so he prepared a lot of weapons, just to match the Sword Saint set. Suddenly, tens of thousands of holy tool long swords floated around him. Go! Tianyun flicked his finger, tens of thousands of holy tool level flying swords pierced through the Saint King stage powerhouses, each of them contains terrifying combat power, 200 billion combat power. Chapter 874. Tens of thousands of saint-rank flying swords crazily shot towards the evil spirit race in front of them. Each flying sword tore through space, and the surrounding space was cut open by this tyrannical power. After the flying sword swept past, the space was torn into thousands of holes, as if it would collapse at any time. Each of these flying swords had a combat power of 200 billion, which was enough to destroy a star. Wherever they went, everything was destroyed. This scene scared the surrounding evil spirit race to the point that their souls were about to fly away. Such a terrifying flying sword pierced through the air, and even from afar, they could feel the aura of death. Such powerful strength. The eyes of the Dragon King and the others lit up. They couldn't wait for Yi Tianyun to become stronger so that he could kill all these beasts. General Long Ti's expression immediately changed. He had never thought that there would be someone who could control so many flying swords at once. The tyrannical power was enough to split mountains and shatter rocks, and destroy heaven and earth. Stop right there. General Long Te roared, and immediately rushed forward to block Yi Tianyun's attack. However, the tens of thousands of flying swords quickly dispersed. Even if they weren't as fast as General Long Te, they still had the advantage in numbers. They quickly spread out in all directions, harvesting the evil spirit race in front of them. They didn't need to kill any Saint King stage powerhouses, as long as they were from the evil spirit race, they would harvest them crazily. There were less than 10,000 evil spirit races present, so they could easily attack with so many flying swords. Swish swish swish. A streak of sword light pierced through, turning the evil spirit race's huge body into a sieve wherever it went, and it couldn't be any more dead. Successfully killed evil spirit race, 3rd layer spirit king stage, gained 2.6 billion EXP, 140. 000 crazy point, 30,000 SPS, gained evil spirit blood. Successfully killed evil spirit race, 4th layer Saint King stage, gained 30 billion EXP, 30 billion crazy points, ding, so many flying swords began to kill in a frenzy, rapidly reaping many lives. The faces of the 3 Divine King stage evil spirit race members darkened. They had no choice but to turn back to block the attack and knock the long sword away. Break! One of the demon gods roared angrily and slammed down ruthlessly. The sharp claws in his hands flickered with black light, and 5 sharp beams whizzed forward as he waved them. Bang bang bang. The 5 beams of light streaked forward to strike the 3 flying swords. The 3 sacred tier flying swords were torn apart just like that. The weapons they used were not ordinary. They were all mid-grade divine weapons. But after the saint tool is broken, there will be flying swords to replace it. It doesn't need to be a saint tool, as long as it is a soul tool, it can still be used to kill the evil spirit race. If the level of Saint King stage wasn't high, he could still suppress them. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to level 3 God King stage. Under the frenzied slaughter, his experience quickly soared. He had already gained a lot of experience, and this time, he gained even more. Therefore, he quickly leveled up to the 4th level of the God King stage, and his combat power soared again. Brat, don't be so arrogant. General Long Ti's figure flashed, and he was already in front of Yi Tianyun. He raised his wand and smashed it down. Originally, he wanted to intercept these flying swords, but after thinking about it carefully, he remembered that the one who released the flying swords was Yi Tianyun. As long as he killed Yi Tianyun, then everything will be over. After the wand smashed down, it instantly locked the surrounding space. If you look carefully, you can see that General Long Ti's body is releasing a black golden light, which feels like black gold. His original body suddenly doubled in size. This time, General Long Te is really serious. Yi Tianyun has completely angered him. Combat power, 2.7 trillion. Yi Tianyun's eyes narrowed. His combat power increased by so much in a short period of time, which immediately made him feel great pressure. He is not wearing the evil spirit set, which greatly reduced his combat power. The power of the Holy Sword set is not bad, but in a one-on-one fight, close combat is undoubtedly very disadvantageous. Whether it is defense or speed, both are greatly reduced. When Yi Tianyun wanted to dodge, he found that the surrounding space has been completely locked. As if there is an invisible wall around him, firmly sealing him inside, there is no way to escape. Teleport. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed, and in the next moment, he appeared outside the space, not daring to forcibly resist. With teleportation, he can easily leave the locked space. This is a true divine skill. The divine skill is to ignore these things and frantically dodge. Boom! After he dodged, the wand smashed down heavily. Accompanied by a loud bang, the space in the area that was smashed collapsed, and a terrifying black hole appeared, swallowing the surrounding spatial fragments. However, it quickly began to repair. The domain outside has the ability to repair, so unless it is an irreparable situation, it will quickly recover. How is this possible? General Long Tae is shocked. He has already used quite a bit of strength, but he is still unable to kill a god king. This is a great humiliation to him. For some reason, it just appeared beside him, making him puzzled. Yi Tianyun can't be bothered with his shocked expression. He continuously controlled the tens of thousands of flying swords, quickly blocking the evil spirit race. So far, not a single one has broken in, or even approached. The violent flying swords seem to have transformed into countless guards, killing any intruders without mercy. General Long Tae is shocked, but he does not stop attacking. As long as he does not kill Yi Tianyun, then all his subordinates will definitely be killed. If he is the only one left, even if he wins, he will be blamed. He has brought out so many of his people, and if all of them die, it would be equivalent to his own incompetence. Die for me! General Long Tae roared, once again waving the wand in his hand. The eyes of the skull on it lit up, and when it smashed down, it also immediately locked onto Yi Tianyun's escape space. It is basically impossible for him to escape. This attack is more ferocious than before, with a combat power of more than 10 billion. In anger, his combat power has also increased. Given his current situation, there is no way he can take it head-on, unless he changes his equipment. At least he has the strength to resist. But if he changes his equipment, the tens of thousands of flying swords will lose their effect. The cooldown time for teleportation is not over yet, and it will take at least an hour before he can teleport again. Could it be that he needs to quickly level up? This is obviously not worth it. He has an additional stone in his hand, Cooling God's Stone. The Cooling God's Stone can quickly recover the cooldown time of 2 hours, but it can only be used 10 times, but it is enough for him. Use. Teleportation cooldown is over. Swish. Chapter 875. Boom. An explosion resounded in the locked space, and just like before, the space was shattered. The result was the same as before, Yi Tianyun easily dodged the attack. General Long's eyes widened. What the hell is going on? I attacked with all my might, but it didn't work at all. What the hell is going on? How did he escape without a sound? Even if it's teleportation, it shouldn't be possible. General Long's eyes were cold, and his heart was filled with anger. When he looked over, he found that many of his subordinates had been killed, especially the Spirit King stage cultivators. The Saint King stage cultivators were slightly better off, but that was the late stage. If it wasn't for the 3 god kings blocking the flying swords, the losses would have been even more severe. If this continued, they would be exhausted to death. Looking at the densely packed flying swords, General Long's scalp went numb. He wanted to eat Yi Tianyun bit by bit to vent his anger. Where are you going? Yi Tianyun sneered at the side. He wanted to stall for time. With his current situation, he couldn't kill General Long, but stalling for time was not a problem. After he killed all of these evil spirit races, he would definitely level up several times in a row. After leveling up, fighting with General Long would undoubtedly be a lot easier. Impossible! General Long roared, and once again waved the magic wand in his hand towards Yi Tianyun. The result was the same. Yi Tianyun immediately used the cooling god stone to teleport himself again, easily dodging the attack. The cooling god stone is really useful. Yi Tianyun was very satisfied with the result. If he could stall for time, then the three realms would definitely suffer the least damage, and this result was definitely what he wanted to see. What's going on? So strange, why did it suddenly disappear? General Long's face sank. He felt that this was too strange, but if he looked carefully, it seemed to be a bit similar to spatial teleportation. But if it was spatial teleportation, how could it be so easy to escape? Very good, you have angered me. General Long let out an angry roar. As he roared, the two arms on his back exploded into a mist of blood. The burst of blood mist quickly landed on his body. Following that, his combat power soared crazily, especially when it was plated with a layer of blood-red luster. This cruel performance made Yi Tianyun frown, feeling that something was wrong. As expected, the next moment, General Long's battle power continued to soar to 300 billion. Suddenly, his battle power reached 3 trillion. He felt that battle power was not battle power, but a series of meaningless numbers. How did it increase so terrifyingly? However, Yi Tianyun could guess that it was something similar to burning one's essence blood. It was just that they were more ruthless to themselves, directly blowing up two arms. It seemed that the effect was not as simple as increasing their combat power. Combat power was just an estimate. As for what the situation was, he wasn't very clear. For example, increasing one's defense could also increase one's combat power, but it didn't mean that one could really crush the opponent after increasing one's combat power. How could he defeat his opponent if he only increased his defense? After the outburst, a bloodthirsty gaze shot out from his eyes, and the wand in his hand seemed to become strange. Go to hell. General Long roared angrily and continued to smash down. A roar came from the wand. Immediately, countless vengeful spirits flew out from it. Just like before, they completely locked down the space. At the same time, countless vengeful spirits tore towards him. Their speed was extremely fast, several times faster than before. After the outburst, all aspects of his strength had greatly increased. It was practically comparable to a divine skill. However, the side effects were definitely not small. With both arms blown up, he would definitely need to rest for a long time. Just as he was about to smash down, Yi Tianyun's figure flashed, and he easily teleported away from this locked space. Even if he increased his power, the space could still leave as he wished. This was the power of a divine skill. He could easily pass through the opponent's space without any pressure. He didn't know what the limit of this teleportation was, but it was fine as long as he could teleport now. Just as he appeared in a corner, a red figure suddenly appeared in front of him, and a thick stench drifted into his nose. His heart shook, and he hurriedly used the cooling god stone. Swish! In the next moment, he disappeared on the spot and appeared in another area. However, just as he appeared, another figure appeared in front of him, swinging a red light at his waist. Go! Yi Tianyun's heart sank, and he teleported away again. However, when he appeared again, the red figure that seemed to be attached to him appeared in front of him again, swinging the red wand in his hand at him. If he was hit, he would definitely be heavily injured. Go again. Yi Tianyun knew that this red figure was none other than General Long. His speed was simply too fast, so fast that it was hard to believe. After the outburst, as long as he sensed General Long's reappearance, he would immediately attack. Under such circumstances, his cooling god stone was being used up rapidly. If this continued, all 10 cooldowns would be used up. He didn't have any spare cooling god stone, so he couldn't hold on for too long. It could even be said that it would be used up once every breath. How could he continue like this? After he teleported for the last time, he quickly put on the evil spirit set and threw out the heaven-devouring artifact at the same time, forming a thick shield around him. He also threw out the heavenly rock suppression tablet to defend in front of him. Boom! This time, the wand smashed over again, accompanied by a loud bang. Tianyun felt as if his internal organs were about to be moved away, and he was directly smashed away. The heaven-devouring artifact's shield could not even withstand for a second, and was completely smashed. Then, it smashed into the heavenly rock suppression tablet, and the powerful defensive power of the tablet was also smashed by the wand. The remaining power slapped over, smashing into Tianyun's body. Tianyun was smashed upside down, and at the same time, tens of thousands of flying swords fell one after another, floating in the air as if they were ownerless. He immediately suffered some minor injuries, but overall, it was still okay. If he had not replaced his equipment, he would have really been seriously injured by this smash. This power was really too terrifying. 3 trillion combat power, if not me, who else? He didn't expect to fail in the end. This General Long was really too powerful. Kill! Without the flying swords to block, they charged forward in a frenzy. How could the Dragon King and the mysterious old man stop them? Just the 3 demon gods alone were enough to make them suffer. Chapter 876. Many evil spirit races rushed over, and just as they collided with the thick barrier, they immediately triggered the protection mechanism of the 3 realms. 10 stars blossomed with dazzling light, and a thick beam of light blasted out, easily killing the evil spirit race experts that rushed up. Even the Saint King stage evil spirit race experts were easily suppressed. The ancient Ming divine pagoda was equally violent. A terrifying suction force was released, sucking in those evil spirit race beings that were pouncing over. Then, it used the strengthened sky lightning space to suppress and kill them. Even if the ancient Ming divine pagoda could not kill the evil spirit race immediately, it could still trap them inside. When that time came, they could slowly clear the area. However, there was no need for that. The descendants of the ancient Ming inside would help clean up the evil spirit race. It could be said that the ancient underworld divine pagoda was the safest, much safer than the 10 stars. However, in terms of lethality, the 10 stars were indeed stronger. It was a complete killing tool. This scene caused many of the evil spirit races to retreat in fear. They never thought that the 3 realms would be able to unleash such a terrifying defense. Some of the evil spirit races who turned to the mortal realm were also quickly suppressed. If he wanted to go to the mortal world, he still had to destroy the defenses of the netherworld and the heavenly realm. Otherwise, he would not be able to enter. Scram! A devil god roared and slapped down, sending the Dragon King flying. Golden light flickered on the Dragon King's body. He was barely able to block this attack, but he was unable to stop the many evil spirit races. The other mysterious old man was in the same situation. He was repeatedly forced back, and he was pressured to the point of being unable to catch his breath. At the end of the day, their cultivation bases weren't at the heaven-defying level. Thus, they were easily suppressed by the 2 demon gods. It would be good enough if they didn't die, let alone defeat the 2 demon gods. There was only 1 demon god left, and it quickly slammed down towards the heaven realm. With a flip of his hand, his huge palm pressed down fiercely, colliding with the power that erupted from the 10 stars. Boom boom boom. The demon god's tyrannical power easily suppressed the power of the 10 stars. Regardless of whether it was the 10 stars or the ancient underworld divine pagoda, they were very effective against cultivators below the God King stage. However, they were not very effective against God Kings. The 2 divine artifacts were very shocking, but no matter how shocking they were, they could not easily kill a God King. Unless a God King used them, the effect would be different. A mere mid-grade divine artifact, scram. The demonic god fighting with the 10 stars roared furiously, and a vast power pressed down, accompanied by a loud sound. The entire heaven realm shook, and all the cultivators inside were shocked. They felt that the end of the world was coming. Then, the 10 stars fell from the sky like meteors. They fell from the sky and landed on the ground, creating 10 huge craters. Upon closer inspection, one would discover that the 10 stars were extremely damaged, but they could still be used after being repaired. But now, there was really no way to suppress it and temporarily lost the ability to defend. When the cultivators of the heaven realm saw the changes in the sky, their expressions changed greatly. Among them, the faces of those who chose to leave the alliance immediately became incomparably ugly. Is this really an attack? When they saw the 10 stars being shot down, they knew how serious the situation was. There was definitely going to be a big attack. This time, they all panicked and hurriedly said to their subordinates, "Quick, quick! Let's quickly communicate with the alliance and gather together to fight against the evil spirit race." Lord! Lord! It's too late, look up. The guard pointed to the sky. Then he saw a lot of evil spirit race people descending from the sky. Among them, there were 7 or 8 Saint King stage cultivators and many Spirit King stage cultivators. As soon as they landed, they immediately began to devour the city. Some of them even destroyed the city first. For a time, the entire imperial capital fell into chaos. Some of them began to kill the evil spirit race people, but basically, they were caught and devoured by the evil spirit race people. Not only did they not cause any damage to them, but they were also devoured by the evil spirit race people to replenish their energy. The Heavenly King's face was pale, this terrifying power was beyond his imagination. Let's go. When the Heavenly King wanted to escape, he saw the evil spirit race people in front of him. Your cultivation is not bad, it will definitely be a great supplement to devour you. The evil spirit race people pounced on the Heavenly King, waved their 8 arms behind them, grabbed the Heavenly King, and then devoured him. The Heavenly King couldn't even resist and was easily devoured by the evil spirit race people. At the moment of devouring, the Heavenly King was filled with regret. Why did he do such a stupid thing? But there was no medicine for regret in this world, they were suppressed and devoured by the evil spirit race people. Not only the Heavenly King here, but the other Heavenly Kings also panicked. They wanted to hurry to find the alliance, but they didn't have enough time to escape. The evil spirit race people devoured those with high cultivation first, so that they could replenish their energy. It was useless for them to regret, they were mercilessly devoured. Not only did they pay the price for their selfishness, but they were also irresponsible to their people, so they were all devoured by the evil spirit race. However, some of them still quickly fled to the alliance. After all, there were so many of them, and it was impossible for the evil spirit race to devour them all. They just devoured those with high cultivation first, which was a great supplement for them. On the other hand, the alliance was already prepared. When the evil spirit race people pounced on them, they immediately activated the array and launched a fierce attack. The Spirit King stage evil spirit race could be directly suppressed, and the Saint King stage evil spirit race could be easily pinned down, waiting for the Saint King stage evil spirit race to kill them. Quick! Quick! The Yun Luo Divine Kingdom is under attack, let's go and support them. One of the Divine Kingdoms that was not attacked immediately went to the Yun Luo Divine Kingdom through the teleportation array. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at the Yun Luo Divine Kingdom's territory and rushed towards the evil spirit race. The other Divine Kingdoms also did the same. They all followed their original strategy and supported the other Divine Kingdoms without any hesitation. The overall situation was still manageable. After all, there were many arrays arranged, and there were also many Saint King stage powerhouses. With the help of the teleportation array, everything could be suppressed. This time, the Divine Kingdoms were fighting the enemies crazily. They did not fall into a crisis immediately. On the contrary, it was those who did not join the alliance who fell into a crisis immediately. They were not prepared at all, and they all thought that it would not happen. This was the result of arrogance. They were attacked one after another, and they basically fell into the enemy's hands. On the other hand, Yi Tianyun had already put on the longevity necklace and quickly recovered from his injuries. He first looked at the 3 realms, then looked at General Long who was not far away. Chapter 877. After the heavenly world's barrier was breached, the ghost world's barrier was also breached. The ancient Ming divine pagoda couldn't devour too many evil spirit race, but the key was that these evil spirit race were very powerful. After suppressing the ancient Ming divine pagoda, they broke through the barrier of the ghost world and began to rush in. The war in the ghost world immediately broke out, and everyone was ready to fight to the death. When the two worlds were invaded, there was no need to say much about the mortal realm. It was quickly attacked by the other evil spirit race. However, there weren't many evil spirit race that went to the ghost world. Most of them were used to deal with the ghost world and heavenly world. But no matter how few there were still a lot of Saint King stage experts. Yi Tianyun's heart tightened when he saw this scene. He hoped that they would be able to hold on. "I'll leave it to you, you must hold on." Yi Tianyun quickly recovered from his injuries as he stared at General Longtae. He had to admit that General Longtae was too overbearing, and his combat prowess had reached an incredible level. "Your world's defense isn't bad, but that's all there is to it." It was still breached. General Longtae also paid attention to the situation of his subordinates. He immediately turned to look at Yi Tianyun and said coldly, "But don't worry, you will die before them." General Longtae gently waved his wand, and a red light flashed on it. It was a bloodthirsty light, and Yi Tianyun didn't know how many experts had died under this wand. General Longtae was really terrifying, worthy of being a great general. "Really? I don't think so." Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed, and the system kept popping up in his ears. Ding! Alliance successfully killed evil spirit race, 3rd level Spirit King stage, gaining 2 billion EXP, 500. 000 crazy point. Ding! Alliance successfully killed evil spirit race, 4th level Saint King stage, gaining 1 billion EXP, 1. 5M crazy point. Ding! Alliance. All of this was not him fighting, but the whole 3 realms was fighting. After they killed evil spirit race, he also gained EXP. It's just that he couldn't get the items, he only got EXP. This was the effect of unifying. As long as they killed enemies, they would be able to gain experience. Although he didn't get any items, the EXP he got was enough. If he could continue like this, the experience he gained would be enough for him to level up. Once his cultivation increased, his chances of winning would increase significantly. "I'd like to see what other abilities you have." In the next moment, General Long Ti's power burst forth once again. Boom! It was no different from teleportation. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Yi Tianyun. He raised his giant wand and smashed it towards his body. Bang! Bang, bang, the force of his wand caused the space around him to tremble, and the space around him began to collapse rapidly. At the same time, just like before, it locked down the surrounding space. It was this small region of space that was compressed and collapsed. Yi Tianyun was also well prepared. He activated the Dragon God and Phoenix bloodlines in his body to the maximum, and his strength was almost stacked to the maximum. With the combination of the Evil Spirits set and the Ancient Desolate set, his strength was stacked to an even higher level, and his combat prowess was stacked to an even higher level. 2 trillion battle power. 2 trillion battle power. 4 trillion battle power. Finally, Yi Tianyun stopped at 4 trillion battle power. He picked up the Evil Spirit Divine Sword and slashed down, triggering the effect of the Evil Spirit Divine Sword. Ding! Consumed 10,000 crazy points, Evil Spirit Soar. Boom! With the explosion of the effect, Yi Tianyun's combat prowess increased by another 200 billion, reaching 6 trillion. It's not over yet. The divine rune on the Evil Spirit Divine Sword buzzed, increasing his combat prowess by another 100 billion. It finally reached 7 trillion battle power. It's a terrifying number, but it's still a lot worse than General Longtae. But at this point, he can only endure it. Boom! A huge wave was released in the dark starry sky, layer after layer of energy fluctuations spread to the surroundings, and wherever it went, the space instantly collapsed, including the surrounding rocks, were shattered into powder. The damage caused by the battle between the two was too terrifying. The invincible explosion shrouded both of them, and it's hard to tell who will win. Immediately, a figure was blasted away, and it was Yi Tianyun. As expected, he was the first to be blasted away. General Long Tay is the strongest. The evil spirit race in the distance was shocked, and they were filled with extreme fanaticism for their general. But before he could finish his words, another figure was also blasted away from the other side. The situation was not as good as expected, and there were also a lot of injuries on his body. Yi Tianyun's situation was a lot worse than General Long T's. There were a lot of injuries on his body, and blood kept flowing out of his body, and some parts of his body even lost a piece of flesh. The gap between the two was not small, and it was not easy to be able to do this. Replace the longevity equipment. He instantly replaced the equipment and began to heal his injuries. Soon, his injuries quickly stabilized, and the blood stopped flowing, and the wounds were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The longevity equipment is amazing, and the recovery speed is amazing. General Long Tay was shocked. He had to sacrifice 2 of his arms to increase his combat prowess, but he still couldn't kill Yi Tianyun, and he could barely fight him once. It's incredible. How did he do this? Did he hide his strength before? General Long T's expression sank. This was not a good sign. He only wanted to quickly kill Yi Tianyun and occupy the 3 realms as soon as possible. He really wanted to ignore Yi Tianyun and quickly occupy the 3 realms, but he had no other choice. He had to kill Yi Tianyun, or else he would continue to attract those flying swords, and they would definitely suffer heavy losses. I don't believe it. General Long Tay roared, and the 2 arms on his back exploded again, and a large amount of blood dyed his body red. Immediately after, his body increased by 2 times, and his combat prowess increased crazily. He was really ruthless to himself. Now that things had come to this, he could only explode his arms again to increase his combat prowess. He was currently wearing good equipment, and it was impossible to change to other equipment. If he had stronger equipment, he would have taken it out long ago. Why would he explode his arms again? After exploding his arms, his combat prowess increased crazily again, 200 billion combat prowess, which was less than before. The explosion could not be endless, and the higher it was, the harder it was to increase it. To be able to increase so crazily in one go was already terrifying enough. Chapter 878. 2 trillion battle power. The long string of numbers was almost off the charts. Fortunately, the appraisal I could withstand it. Otherwise, such shocking numbers would definitely not be displayed. Yi Tianyun did not know what level this battle power was. At the very least, a peak God King stage cultivator did not have such a level of cultivation. Perhaps only an existence who had reached a higher level could burst out such a shocking level. If General Long did not use this kind of self-damaging move, it would really be impossible to reach such a number. Although the loss was serious, as long as he was given time to recover, he could still recover. The main thing was that he came here to complete the mission. If he could not even complete the mission, he would be scolded half to death even if his body was intact, and he might even be punished. Therefore, when it was time to erupt, he would definitely not be stingy. Huff, huff, huff. I didn't expect you to force me to this point. This is really beyond my expectations, but this is a little more interesting. Whoosh. In the next moment, General Long arrived in front of Yi Tianyun. The magic wand in his hand had already changed into a different dark red color. When he waved it, countless wraiths rose up and formed phantoms in the surroundings, enveloping the area where Yi Tianyun was. There was basically no way to escape. Whether it was speed or strength, they had greatly increased. Even if he only had 6 arms, the reduction of arms did not reduce his strength. It only increased his strength. Detonating these arms was like removing layers of armor, becoming lighter and more violent. In the face of such a terrifying power, Yi Tianyun's eyes narrowed. He did not hesitate to take out the heaven and earth divine sigil. This was the absolute divine sigil of the spirit race. It could increase his damage by 5 times. Heaven and earth divine sigil, open for me. He stuck the heaven and earth divine sigil on his body. In an instant, the blood essence flowed into his body, and a deep blood mark appeared on his chest. Following that, his battle power soared crazily and directly exploded. 8 trillion battle power. 9 trillion battle power. 200 billion battle power. Logically speaking, a 5-fold increase in battle power should be more than this value. After all, his current base value was around 70 billion, so he should be able to explode to around 310 billion. However, the effect of the heaven and earth divine sigil was limited. It did not mean that it could really explode 5 times the effect for every rank. However, to be able to increase battle power by 200 billion was already quite heaven-defying. At least he had forcibly pulled back the distance, as if he had returned to the starting point of the battle. Boom! The two of them were quickly bounced back under this extreme explosion. The evil spirit divine sword in Yi Tianyun's hand was almost bent by the pressure, and General Long Ti's hand was bleeding from the impact. The evil spirit races who were watching from afar were all stunned. Their general had actually tied with his opponent again. It was simply unbelievable. One had to know that General Lanti had lost 4 of his arms to achieve such an effect. What did this human drop? He didn't seem to have dropped anything, so how could he still hold on? What's going on? You can still hold on. General Long Ti's face sank, but after he stabilized his body, he waved his wand again and smashed it towards Yi Tianyun. He didn't stop at all, he directly entered the Berserk War mode. He wanted to crush Yi Tianyun. General Shen, Divine, and God. Long, the God, and Spirit. Divine, he God, God, he God, he God. After all, the heaven and earth divine rune can only last for 5 minutes. If this continues, he will definitely lose. Crazy mode? Not to mention that he doesn't have enough crazy points, he needs 200 million crazy points, which is too much. Even if he has 200 million crazy points, his level is not enough. If he wants to upgrade this crazy mode, he needs to be a peak God King. He doesn't know why he needs such a high level, but even if he has enough, he can't upgrade it. Now he can only start from other places. For example, upgrading Dragon God Bloodline is a good choice. Just as he was thinking about how to deal with General Long was already in front of him. The wand was already descending from the top of his head. It could be said that each strike was more violent than the last, and the power was terrifying. Heaven-shaking art. Yi Tianyun roared as he gathered 100 million gene of power in his hand and waved it towards General Long Te. His combat prowess increased, but not by much. After all, General Long Te's strength was also amazing, so there was no need to fear him. Boom! Yi Tianyun almost vomited blood when he was hit by the wand. I didn't expect this guy's combat power to increase so much. General Long didn't let him go. In a flash, he quickly chased after Yi Tianyun. He turned into a meteor and smashed down from the sky, wanting to kill him. Upgrade Heaven-shaking art. Ding, deducting 5 million proficiency points, successfully upgraded Heaven-shaking art to middle-grade Heaven-level martial art. Effect increased to 10 billion gene of divine power, trample the world. Next level requires 20 million proficiency points. Heaven-shaking art. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. His body immediately became 10 billion gene. He waved the evil spirit divine sword to meet the attack. A huge mountain shadow appeared behind him, covering a large area behind him. At this moment, he seems to have turned into a huge mountain, even the ancient Ming divine pagoda is dwarfed by it. 1 trillion combat power. With this invincible divine art, his combat power actually soared to 200 billion. As expected of an invincible heaven-level divine art, its power is many times stronger than before. Boom! The two collided again, and the two were sent flying again. The starry sky collapsed again. This time, the two of them fought to a draw again, which surprised the Dragon King and the others in the distance. Tianyun was obviously pressured to the point that he couldn't bear it anymore, but suddenly he rose again. What was going on? Was it the final radiance of the setting sun? Damn it, what the hell is going on? General Long Tae almost vomited blood. He thought that he could suppress Tianyun, but he didn't expect it to be a tie again. That's what happened. Tianyun's eyes were cold, and at the same time, he gave an order in his mind. Upgrade Dragon God Bloodline. Ding, successfully deducted 50 million crazy points to upgrade Dragon God Bloodline to 8th grade. Next grade requires 100 million crazy points. Tianyun didn't hold back. Since he can't upgrade crazy mode for the time being, he might as well use it to upgrade other things. Dragon God Bloodline is very useful. It can greatly increase the effect of strength, and the higher the level, the more amazing it will be. After the upgrade, his combat power increased again. 2 trillion combat power. 3 trillion combat power. 4 trillion combat power. 5 trillion combat power. Chapter 879. After upgrading his Dragon God Bloodline, his battle prowess surpassed General Long. Of course, the Dragon God Bloodline's amplification wasn't that scary. What was scary was the effect of the Dragon God Bloodline, which stacked the crazy damage system. The effect of the Dragon God Bloodline wouldn't clash with the crazy damage system. This was one of the reasons why he wanted to upgrade it. This meant that after upgrading the Dragon God Bloodline, it would be 32 times stronger. How could the effects be bad? Explode. Tianyun's entire body was in the evil spirit state, and he was wrapped in thick Dragon God armor, which actually covered up the effects of the evil spirit set. It seemed like the further he upgraded, the more terrifying the effects would be. In this state, Tianyun didn't even need to use his weapon. He just swung his fists. The space was smashed into pieces, turning into a red light that pierced down. Upon closer inspection, this red light was actually a huge red dragon twisting its huge body in space. Roar! The dragon's roar reverberated through space. In reality, it was energy spreading in all directions, pouring into everyone's heads and causing them to buzz. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of General Long and swung his fist. General Long was stunned. He didn't expect Tianyun to initiate an attack. He quickly raised his wand to meet the attack. Boom! The fist smashed into the wand. With a muffled sound, General Long was sent flying. The wand stuck to his huge body and caved in. He felt his insides churning, as if his body was about to shatter. He was stunned. The humans that he had suppressed before, then fought to a draw with him, were now suppressing him in terms of strength. Tianyun didn't stop. He didn't have much time. He had to end this quickly. Boom, boom, boom. Tianyun was like a madman, punching General Long Tae again and again, and General Long Tae's body was about to explode. Every punch smashed into his body. The berserk power of the dragon, the scorching heretic god flame, and the astonishing gravity of the heaven-shaking divine art were all gathered in his fists. General Long Tae's body, which had become several times more berserk, was still blown apart by the punches. His body had caved in quite a bit, and his internal organs had been damaged. This was simply a brutal beating. Their general was brutally beaten just like that. The evil spirit races were all stunned, their morale plummeting. General Long Tae was their general. Only when the general was domineering enough would their morale rise. Now that they had been ruthlessly beaten up, the evil spirit race that was paying attention to this side felt their hearts go cold. If the general died, would they still be able to win? The Alliance experts below all noticed the situation over here. Since the barrier was gone, those with high cultivation could see what was going on outside. The dragon armor on his body had been shattered, and his internal organs were on the verge of shattering. This power was really too terrifying. It was definitely not as simple as increasing his combat power by almost 1 trillion, but an overall increase in his strength. It was obviously related to the black blood. As if he had swallowed some potion, his combat power had greatly increased, and his strength was even more heaven-defying. More importantly, now that he had smashed into the mortal world, it meant that this place was about to become a battlefield. Outside, he could casually cause space to collapse. If he fought here, he would definitely destroy the mortal world. The effect of the heaven and earth divine rune has disappeared. Following that, he immediately lost hundreds of billions of combat power, and his strength greatly decreased. How could he compare to this General Longte now? He believed that as long as he continued to resist, even if he could not kill General Longte, he would still be able to delay for a while, and General Longte would definitely lose. Under such a situation, he would not be able to hold on for too long. But now, he could not even hold on for a short period of time. The gap between the two immediately widened by 600 to 700 billion, and the pressure doubled. He still had no heaven and earth god runes. Actually, he still had heaven and earth god runes. Yi Qingxian had previously prepared 2 for him, and in addition to the one she gave him a long time ago, he had 3. But he could not use them for now. They could not be used immediately, and needed at least a day before he could use them. Chapter 880. Without the heaven and earth god runes 5 times buff, but with the title's 10 times damage buff, it seemed more suitable, but the mortal world was definitely not a good battlefield. A little carelessness would spread to other areas, and there would be countless casualties. General Longte would definitely hold back. As for compressing the power and not letting it spread to the surrounding area, it was absolutely impossible. This was what he was worried about. Otherwise, he would have come down earlier and waited for General Longte to come down. With the 10 times damage buff, he would be invincible. However, for the safety of the 3 realms, the area he chose to fight in had always been outside. Now that it was smashed down, it immediately caused an uproar among the crowd. Their heavenly cloud's great emperor was smashed down just like that, and he seemed to have suffered some serious injuries. However, Yi Tianyun quickly bounced up from the ground and instantly replaced the longevity necklace and longevity ring with the longevity necklace and longevity ring. Yi Tianyun used the healing medicinal pill to heal his injuries as fast as possible. At this time, General Longte's figure appeared in the air. He turned his head and looked around contemptuously. Is this your environment? It's really garbage. However, it's really unexpected for such a strong cultivator to appear in such a garbage environment. His expression was full of contempt, but his heart was full of shock. It was really unexpected for such a strong cultivator to appear in such a cultivation environment. However, he didn't show it on his face. He still had an arrogant expression on his face. Xiao. Yi Tianyun disappeared in the blink of an eye, and the next moment, he appeared in front of General Longte. Teleportation. Open for me. He roared, and suddenly the 3 realms began to shake. The 3 heaven-ascending divine altars released dazzling light. Whether it was the 10 stars that fell to the ground or the ancient Ming divine pagoda below, they all began to release dazzling light. Immediately afterward, 3 phantoms appeared in the sky. They were the phantoms of the heaven-creating divine king and the others. The strongest will they left behind converged into the most overbearing power. In just a breath's time, the 3 realms gathered a terrible power, turned into a huge nail in the air, and fiercely pierced towards General Longte. The space around General Longte was instantly locked, and a golden light wall trapped him inside. This was the trump card left behind by the three godly monarchs. Even if Fiend Celestial Long Yu escaped, he could be suppressed for another 100 years. Yi Tianyun was currently using it on General Lanti. Although he didn't know how effective it would be, it was still worth a try. The main thing was that this effect included suppressing power and minimizing damage. In the blink of an eye, the huge nail pierced through the golden light. It looked like it had indeed pierced through. General Long Yi Tianyun did not stay idle. He also raised the evil spirit divine sword and unleashed his dragon god bloodline. Once again, he aimed at General Long and slashed down, wanting to cut him in half. With the 10 times increase, his battle power suddenly soared to more than 700 billion, reaching 4 trillion battle power, almost catching up to General Lanti. Clang! A deafening sound rang out, as if it had smashed into some sharp metal weapon. When the golden light disappeared, General Long appeared in front of him unscathed. There was not a single wound on his body. The combined power of the three godly monarchs was unable to cause any damage to General Long Te. It looked like the black crystal on his body had completely blocked it. More importantly, General Long had actually caught Yi Tianyun's tyrannical sword with his bare hands. However, this sword with all his might had still caused damage to General Long Te. It had even pierced through the crystal and sunk in. Thick black blood flowed out and flowed down his palm to the ground. When it touched the ground, it actually melted the ground, creating an unfathomably deep hole. Just a single drop of blood was enough to pierce through heaven and earth. It was truly unbelievable. What was even more unbelievable was that General Long Te had caught this sword. Previously, when the difference was not too great, he could at least send someone flying. Now, he could not even send someone flying, yet he had caught this attack with his bare hands. It was enough to show that General Long Te was very confident in his physique. He believed that Yi Tianyun would definitely not be able to break through his defense. He can still get stronger. General Long Te's expression changed. He was very confident in himself, but his hand had almost been chopped off. He thought that he could completely suppress Yi Tianyun. How did he suddenly catch up? It was truly strange. This was the result of sacrificing 8 of his arms and drinking a bottle of blood. What changes did the other party have? He had never seen it before. He did not consume any berserk pills, nor did he have any other changes. He did not even burn his essence blood. Yet, he was getting stronger and stronger. It was truly too strange. I can't let you live. General Long Te pulled Yi Tianyun over and threw a punch at Yi Tianyun. When Yi Tianyun was pulled over, he felt a terrifying force forcefully pulling him over. Then, he quickly let go and swung his fist to meet General Long Te head-on. Boom! The two fists collided. After the violent forces collided, both of their bodies trembled. Yi Tianyun was directly sent flying, while General Long Te only took half a step back. Along the way, a violent force pressed down in all directions, causing the ground to sink. Because the pressure was too strong, a huge crack appeared on the ground and quickly split open in all directions. In the blink of an eye, the area within a radius of 100 miles was immediately destroyed. Many flowers and trees were crushed into powder. Some places on the ground were also crushed into dust and drifted in all directions. With just a simple punch, the area within 100 miles was destroyed. If they continued to fight, the mortal world would definitely be gone. Especially the space, the sky began to slightly collapse. The originally blue sky became incomparably dark, as if there were many black holes hanging in the sky. What a powerful force! Yi Tianyun quickly stopped moving. His arm felt like it was about to be crippled. His heart sank. There was clearly only a difference of 200 billion battle power, but why did it feel like there was a difference of trillions of battle power? His eyes sized up General Long Te's body, but he could not see anything. He could only analyze his vast battle power. I don't know how your battle power is getting stronger and stronger, but I have the blessing of the king's blood. How can a mere attack hurt me? General Long Ti's figure changed and rushed towards Yi Tianyun, not giving Yi Tianyun any chance to catch his breath. King's blood. Chapter 881. Boom, boom, boom. General Long Ti rushed over and punched Yi Tianyun. He didn't use his magic wand, he only used his fists. It was not that he was merciful, but after consuming the blood, his body was already comparable to a mid-quality divine artifact. Without using a weapon, just smashing with his fists was faster and more agile than a weapon. Yi Tianyun did not fear and swung his fists. They collided again and again, but he was forced back again and again. The blood vessels on his arms were crushed, and blood kept flowing out. It was a heart-wrenching sight. However, with their violent attacks, the area began to collapse on a large scale, and everything in its path was destroyed. If this continued, it would definitely affect the other empires. Yi Tianyun could only keep bringing him around, so the ground was destroyed again and again. He was about to break through the ground. He was fighting with all his might, and the others were also fighting with all their might. They were fighting bravely and killing the invaders. At the same time, many people were paying attention to the situation here. When they saw Yi Tianyun covered in blood, their hearts tightened. Tianyun, Shi Shuyan bit her lips. After waving her sword to kill the evil spirit race, she looked at the situation in the distance. They could only see a blurry figure and could not see the battle. Only when they stopped could they see it a little more clearly. They could clearly feel the energy rippling over from the other side. If it continued to come here, they would definitely be dead. Even if it did not come close, the sky had already darkened, and the space was starting to collapse. The areas that had not been affected before were starting to collapse. This was the negative effect of space collapsing. It would affect the entire world. As the collapse became more and more serious, the world would become worse and worse, and even the mortal world would disappear. After all, after the space collapsed, the surrounding environment would be sucked into the collapsed space bit by bit. This was not devouring, but repairing the collapsed space. It would be fine if the collapsed space was small, but if it was too large, by the time the collapsed space was repaired, more than half of the mortal world would be gone. Shi Shuyan wasn't the only one who was worried about Yi Tianyun. The others were also worried, but they couldn't do anything to help. Don't even mention helping, if they were to get close, they would probably be killed by that energy. However, they were not idle at all. They were constantly dealing with the evil spirit race that was charging down. They mainly killed Spirit King stage cultivators, and as for Saint King stage cultivators, they left them to the Heavenly Clouds Empire's guardian deities. Although many of the evil spirit race's cultivators were at the Saint King stage, the spirit arrays they had arranged were not weak and some of them could even trap a Saint King stage powerhouse. After they were trapped, they could be killed. Everything seemed so perfect, but in reality, from the very beginning, the three realms had been constantly suffering casualties, and the number was still rising. The disparity in strength was simply too great. Even if he could make up for it through other means, it was still difficult to make up for it in terms of cultivation. It wasn't just the mortal realm. The casualties of the other two realms continued to increase. This clearly showed them what a true battle of life and death was. In the next moment, they could be swallowed up or killed with a single slap. The thick stench of blood permeated the entire three realms, and one could practically smell it in every corner. Kill. We have to protect our home. Yes, kill them all. Even if we die, we will drag them down with us. Bastards. You bastards. Go to hell. One by one, regardless of their own safety, they rushed forward. They knew that even if they hid, they would still die in the end, so they might as well die a glorious death. However, many of them hid and didn't fight. There were all kinds of people in this war, and all kinds of people were exposed here. There were even people who begged for mercy from the evil spirit race or were willing to become their slaves. However, these evil spirit race didn't listen to them at all. As long as they saw someone who wasn't from the same race, they would kill or devour them. No matter what they said, they didn't care. The order they received was to come down and occupy them, and it had nothing to do with them if they surrendered or begged for mercy. The so-called occupation here didn't mean that they would surrender, but that they would kill or devour all the strong cultivators. As for the weak ones, they could deal with them later. For now, they just needed to kill all the cultivators that were close to them. It was that simple. Some people were cowardly, while others were brave. Fortunately, there were more brave people. They were all afraid of death, but they wouldn't kneel and beg for mercy. In any case, it was useless to kneel and beg for mercy. The result was to fight with their lives on the line. While the three realms were fighting crazily, Yi Tianyun and Long Tae continued to attack crazily, destroying the heavens and earth. For a time, Yi Tianyun and General Long Tae were fighting to a draw. At most, they would lose by a little. However, his body was already covered in wounds, and he looked terrible. However, he still stubbornly held on, as if he was waiting for an opportunity. Why aren't you becoming stronger? Continue to become stronger, trash. General Long Tae continuously attacked and said mockingly, weren't you very arrogant before? Why are you getting weaker and weaker now? The three realms are gradually being devoured. You will definitely lose. Don't make such a pointless struggle. Is that so? I don't think so. Yi Tianyun's eyes were filled with determination. He didn't think that they had lost. All sorts of system sounds kept ringing in his ears, which meant that they had been fighting. So many people were fighting, so why wasn't he fighting with his life on the line? Still so stubborn in the face of death. General Long Tae's attack speed is getting faster and faster, and Yi Tianyun is already on the ground. Yi Tianyun is already on the ground. Yi Tianyun was still fighting back. Their fists collided, and the ground around them was already destroyed. All that was left was an incomparably deep pit. He didn't know how many bones in his body were broken, but he still stubbornly held on. There was still hope. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to 4th level God King. The corner of his mouth curled into a smile. This was the hope he had been waiting for. Scram! Yi Tianyun roared, and at the moment when their fists collided, his combat power once again exploded. 1 trillion combat power. 2 trillion combat power. 5 trillion combat power. 98 trillion combat power. After advancing to the next level, his combat power was instantly stacked by 45 times. Even if the breakthrough only increased his combat power by 10 billion, it would increase his combat power by 450 billion. The problem was that the breakthrough did not only increase his combat power by 10 billion, but more than 20 billion combat power. Dong! Chapter 882. A thick beam of light burst out from Yi Tianyun's fist, instantly striking General Long and sending him flying. Countless black crystal fragments scattered on the ground, leaving only a thick beam of light that pierced through the heavens and earth. In just an instant, a shocking reversal had occurred. This was the power of leveling up. His cultivation had broken through just like that. This was all the credit of his allies. They fought bravely, and coupled with the 377 times experience, he successfully broke through to the 3rd stage of the God King stage. He had been persisting, waiting for this moment. As long as his cultivation increased by a level, he would have absolute hope. Originally, he knew that it would be difficult for him to deal with General Long, so he had prioritized the Saint King stage evil spirit race. Who knew that General Long would be so overbearing and quickly intercepted him, making it impossible for him to level up easily. Otherwise, he would have leveled up long ago. Not to mention 1 level, even 2 levels would be more than enough. With so many Saint King stage evil spirit race experts, killing them all would probably be enough to level up by 3 levels. However, There was no problem now, it was just that he was a little late. He fiercely swung his fist, smashing General Long and causing him to vomit blood. The hard black crystal on his body was also smashed. The black crystal was hard enough, but that was only when the difference in cultivation was not too big. Now that his combat strength was a level higher than General Long's, he could naturally deal with the enemy easily. After the light disappeared, General Long fell heavily from the sky and smashed into the ground. More than half of the black crystal on his body had been smashed. He looked very miserable, and there was not a single piece of flesh on his body that was unharmed. His originally sturdy body quickly shrank and shrunk a lot in an instant, turning into a thin and weak old man, lying on the ground in a shriveled state. Of course, this effect was not because Yi Tianyun's strength had reached such a level, but because after General Long was sent flying, the force that had been supporting him had completely dissipated. Now, the side effects of the eruption had appeared. His body had shrunk, let alone a few years. Even if he was given 1,000 years, he might not be able to return to his previous peak state. His cultivation had fallen sharply. Yi Tianyun's appraisal I could accurately see the data, which meant that he had directly dropped by a great realm. There were pros and cons to this kind of situation where one had to sacrifice 800 men in order to injure the enemy. It might seem refreshing to explode, but it was still a gamble. Once they lost, they would lose completely. Now, General Lanti couldn't even walk, let alone escape. His body had shriveled up like an old man, and his sturdy appearance was gone forever. Without 1,000 years of recovery, it would be difficult to recover. And this was under the condition that he had to take all kinds of pills in order to recover in such a short period of time. If it wasn't for such a strong side effect, General Long would have exploded his entire arm long ago instead of exploding it bit by bit. It was the same when cultivators burned their blood essence. If they burned it all at once, even if they didn't die, they would need a long time to recover. At that time, his lifespan would come to an end, and his cultivation would not be able to recover. Yi Tianyun took a deep breath and flew towards General Long. He looked at him coldly and said, "You've lost. How could you still be hiding your strength?" General Long Te wanted to sit up, but he couldn't. He had expended too much energy and was basically in a state of deficit. How could he move? He was just a piece of trash waiting to be slaughtered. Hiding my strength? No, I'm not hiding my strength, I just broke through. Yi Tianyun smiled indifferently, "You've lost this battle. Unfortunately, you failed again." Broke through. General Long Te's eyes were filled with disbelief. Even if he had broken through, he was still a God King stage cultivator. How could he crush him so easily? Immediately after, he revealed a contemptuous smile, "So what if we lost? Once the ancestral land finds out that we've lost, they will send a stronger force to suppress you. Next time, it will be the time of your death." This time, General Long Te had died. Next time, there was no doubt that they would send a more terrifying force. It was even possible that they would send someone several levels stronger than General Long Te. Why did you choose to occupy the 3 realms? The gap between this place and your side is so big, why do you insist on doing this? Yi Tianyun looked at him coldly. Sending people to attack again and again was something that he couldn't believe. Through this battle, he knew that the gap between the 2 sides was too great. They weren't even on the same level. The 3 realms didn't have enough resources to cultivate so many Saint King stage powerhouses. Haha, since you want to know, I'll tell you. We just want to take away your core. It's that simple, the core here is quite different. It's obviously a small starfield, but it's comparable to the core of a large starfield. General Long Te revealed a longing look, as if he was looking at a treasure. Yi Tianyun didn't understand what General Long Te meant, but he knew that the 3 realms was a treasure. Moreover, it was a very tempting treasure. In order to obtain this core, you won't hesitate to sacrifice countless lives. Yi Tianyun stared at General Long Te and said. However, after saying this, he suddenly felt relieved. Many cultivators were like this. In order to obtain a treasure, they would kill the owner, or even their entire family. Ha ha ha, are you an idiot? The weak are prey to the strong, this is the truth. You're too weak, and you have such a treasure. If I don't destroy you, who else can I destroy? General Long Tay laughed loudly. There was no despair in his eyes. He knew that even if he died, there would still be people coming to kill them. However, if he died, he wouldn't be able to complete the mission. Don't worry, you don't need to come personally. I will kill them. Yi Tianyun said coldly. Your strength is not worth mentioning. General Long Tay smiled brightly. He didn't think that Yi Tianyun could flatten their ancestral land. To me, your ancestral land is also not worth mentioning. I almost forgot to tell you something. It took me 20 years to cultivate to this level. If you give me a few more decades, what level do you think I will reach? Under General Long T's shocked gaze, Yi Tianyun grabbed General Long T's head and began to search his soul. He wanted to know more about the situation in the ancestral land and the outside world. However, while searching his soul, General Long T's body began to become unstable. He felt like he was about to explode. Damn it! Chapter 883. Ding! Successfully killed General Long Tay. Reward, 1, 88 billion EXP, 20 million crazy point, 1 million SPS. Obtained Evil Spirit Blood, Evil Spirit Soul, and Evil Spirit Bone. Evil Soul Divine Sword, High-Grade Divine Tool, Evil Soul Armor, High-Grade Divine Tool, Evil Soul Boots, High-Grade Divine Tool, 100 times EXP card. Ding! Reward, 100 billion EXP, 5 million crazy point, 5 million proficiency, 2 super enhanced lottery draws. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to 5th level God King stage. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to 6th level God King stage. Jumping 2 levels in a row is as easy as drinking water. This was all based on the premise of 377 times experience points. Almost 2 trillion EXP, which is unprecedented. This is the EXP of high cultivation. The higher the level, the more terrifying the EXP. The other data is also terrifying. The higher the level, the more EXP it brings. However, he could only level up 2 levels like this, so he could only be considered average. He needs a lot of EXP to level up, and after 2 consecutive levels, he will need more EXP to level up. I can't let these things go. Yi Tianyun quickly collected the things that General Long Tay dropped after the explosion. There are a lot of good things inside. He just doesn't know if there is any information about the ancestral land inside, or if there is any other information. But after checking, there is basically nothing inside, just a pile of medicinal pills, some materials, and weapons. There is no other information about the ancestral land at all. Of course, this is not necessary. As long as there is a Spirit King stage soldier, he can still interrogate them. After killing General Long Tay, all the evil spirit race in the 3 realms were dumbfounded. They clearly felt that their general's aura is gone. He was killed just like that. General is dead. The evil spirit race was stunned. Their invincible general died in the hands of the lowly human race. They are stunned, but it doesn't mean that the cultivators are stunned. The cultivators of the Alliance felt a surge of excitement in their hearts. They continued to kill their enemies bravely, becoming even more ferocious than before. We won. This was the biggest thought in his mind. If the strongest one was dead, then the remaining ones were nothing to be afraid of. Their morale skyrocketed in an instant, and their strength to kill the enemy increased by a few notches. At the same time, the evil spirit race's side did not have enough confidence to resist. Their morale rapidly dropped, and they could not even unleash half of their usual strength. This was the result of the death of their leader. If the general was dead, what else could they do? Tianyun won. Shi Shuiyan's side was equally agitated. All of their faces were pale. They were having a hard time resisting. However, the ground was littered with corpses. Some belonged to their enemies, and some belonged to them. When they saw that Yi Tianyun had won, tears welled up in their eyes. They had finally made it this time. Go all out. Yi Tianyun flew up and the longevity necklace that he was wearing swiftly began healing his body. At the same time, tens of thousands of holy artifacts floated in the air. Under his control, they pushed towards the mortal world, killing all the evil spirit races under their swords. Experience points were rising rapidly, but the time limit of the experience card was almost up. Yi Tianyun was not stingy. He continued to buy a set of experience cards and continued to slaughter the evil spirit races. Killing so many Saint King stage experts would give him a lot of experience points, so he must not waste them. The next situation was a one-sided slaughter. With Yi Tianyun joining the battle, everything became much easier. The god kings who were fighting with the dragon king and the others outside were easily killed. It was no different from mowing grass. However, the mysterious old man from the ghost world was seriously injured and dying. When he learned that he had won the battle, he died with a smile on his face. His mission has been completed, so he died without regrets. Soon, all the evil spirit races in the three realms were killed by Yi Tianyun. After killing the last evil spirit race, a sweet voice sounded again. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to the 8th level of God King stage. Yi Tianyun broke through to the 8th level of God King stage. After killing all the evil spirit races at the Saint King stage and Spirit King stage, he jumped 2 levels. This was the effect of high experience points. There were more than 400 Saint King stage cultivators, and after killing all of them, he would get trillions of experience points. Including the Spirit King stage experts and the God King stage expert, it was only enough for him to break through to the 3rd level. It can only be said that the amount of experience points needed to level up is too much. It's finally over. After Yi Tianyun killed the last evil spirit race, everything was over, and he finally succeeded. After successfully resisting the evil spirit race, he won the battle. One by one, the cultivators hugged each other and cried. They cried tears of joy, but most of them were sad. Because too many people died this time, everyone was sad. If it wasn't for Yi Tianyun's preparation in advance, I'm afraid more people would have died. In theory, the number of deaths this time was quite considerable. It wasn't particularly high. It's not a waste to prepare so much in advance. It's just that the enemies were too strong. Even if they were prepared, it was inevitable that some people died. No matter what, it's all over. Yi Tianyun returned to the mortal world. The mortal world also suffered heavy casualties. Many familiar faces had disappeared, but most of them were still there. After all, in the mortal world, Yi Tianyun was a little selfish. Compared to the other 2 realms, the mortal world is much stronger. However, it was inevitable that some cultivators died, but everything was within the acceptable range. We succeeded. Yi Tianyun walked over. When they saw him, they all stood up excitedly and wanted to welcome their king back. You don't need to move, continue to heal. Yi Tianyun walked to Shi Shuiyan and hugged her. He buried his head in her neck and said solemnly, we won, MMM. Shi Shuiyan hugged him tightly, tears blurred her vision, her white dress. She doesn't know how much blood is stained, she can't tell which is her own and which is others. Today was the day the war would end. After the end, the 3 realms entered a state of rest, and soon all the forces in the 3 realms thought that Yi Tianyun is the guardian of the 3 realms and that he is qualified to rule the 3 realms. One by one, they were willing to obey his orders. If it weren't for Yi Tianyun running around, they would have definitely suffered more casualties. Therefore, they were absolutely convinced, and no one dared to disobey. Ding! Successfully completed the 3 realms' ultimate quest, resist the invaders, destroy them, and complete the true unification of the 3 realms. Rewards: 200 billion EXP, 10 million crazy points, 10 million SPS, 10 million mastery points. And the three titles merged into a new title, God of the Three Realms. Under the consensus, Yi Tianyun became the true ruler of the three realms. At the same time, he completed the ultimate quest and received a lot of rewards. God of the Three Realms, stay anywhere in the three realms, damage increased by 20 times, commander points increased by 200,000, defense increased by 20 times, healing speed increased by 20 times, speed increased by 20 times. Chapter 884. God of the Three Realms, Yi Tianyun looked at this title and sighed in his heart. If he had obtained this title before, it would have definitely been heaven-defying. What General Lanti could easily be blasted apart by him with a single punch. It didn't even take much effort. After this great battle, the three realms regained its peace and continued to live and cultivate as before. However, everyone remembered this battle. It was a dark moment, and almost everyone participated in it. Those with low cultivation bases served as logistics, constantly helping to heal their injuries. Thus, during that period of time, no one was idle. However, after Yi Tianyun won, everything was resolved in a short period of time. If it was a normal battle, it would take at least a few days and nights, or even a few weeks. However, under Yi Tianyun's 10,000 swords, everything was so simple. He easily harvested all the evil spirit race and completed the support of the three realms. If not for him, the losses of the three realms would have definitely spread to the maximum. Among them, the heaven realms suffered the greatest losses. Those divine nations that chose not to join the alliance were basically flattened. Those who stayed behind hated the king to the extreme. Even if they were already dead, they still wanted to step on their corpses. After all, there were losses on the alliance's side, but it was definitely not to such a degree. Most of them survived. Those who did not join the alliance did not survive. This was the difference between them. After this matter, Yi Tianyun's reputation reached its peak. He could definitely be called the god of the three realms. At the same time, in a huge star field in the vast outer region, there were countless evil spirit races. They were all distributed among the various planets here. On one of the largest planets, there were many evil spirit races in the hall. Among them, the evil spirit races who were sitting on the throne in the center of the hall casually leaned back in their seats. Their eyes were very calm, and their expressions did not reveal any dignity. However, the people below were trembling, afraid of angering the king in front of them. Big king, there's news that the attack on that small star field has failed. One of the experts stepped forward and reported. The king, who was sitting on the throne, looked at him and said indifferently, "Didn't I ask you to do this matter? It seems to have been a long time, I almost forgot." Yes. We've attacked 3 times in total, but we've already failed. We guessed that this small star area belonged to some big force. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been so hard to capture it. We will quickly make arrangements and continue to send more experts over to seize that star field. We will definitely win this time. It was our negligence that caused us to waste so much time. The minister knelt down and hurriedly tried to remedy the situation. Although the king in front of him didn't show the slightest bit of anger, his back was already dripping with cold sweat and his whole body was trembling. The calmer it was, the more terrifying it was. It was even possible that it would slap him. "Didn't you investigate properly before?" the king said indifferently. "Yes, we've investigated and found that they don't belong to any faction. Perhaps it was only recently subdued, which is why we don't know," the minister hurriedly said, "but we will continue to investigate. We will send people to eradicate them after we investigate thoroughly. Well, I'll give you one last chance. If you can't do it, you know the result." The high and mighty king looked down calmly. Yes. This time, we will definitely do it well, there will be no mistakes," the minister hurriedly said. After saying that, he immediately got up and went to do it. There must be no mistakes in this matter. If there was a mistake, the result would be a dead end. This was already his fourth chance. If he still failed, then he would really lose his head. After the minister left, they continued to discuss the next thing. After the discussion here was over, Tianyun began to hold the grandest wedding. The place where the wedding was held was the heavenly cloud's imperial capital of the mortal world. All the powerhouses of the three realms came to congratulate. Each powerhouse offered their treasures. This was the wedding of the god of the three realms, how could they be stingy? Since the restrictions were lifted, the three realms could now be freely traveled. With Tianyun's current strength, it was not difficult to remove the restrictions at all. The previous restrictions were all removed, and the passage was freely accessible. Tianyun did this to make it easier for everyone to act and support each other. Anyway, the three realms had been unified, so many things were easy to arrange. There was no need to worry about the mortal world becoming a battlefield. With him in charge, who would dare to act recklessly? On this day, the Heavenly Cloud's empire celebrated. The Heavenly Cloud's imperial capital was extremely beautifully decorated. Many phoenixes and dragons descended one after another, creating the auspicious effect of dragons and phoenixes. When the newlyweds set foot on the specially built altar, everyone was excited. One was the emperor, the other was the empress. Tianyun was the emperor, and Shi Shuyan was the empress. Many women below were envious. They all wanted to be the empress, but they were not qualified. Yue and the others were the same. They all wanted to marry Tianyun, but they all knew that Tianyun only loved Shi Shuyan. No one could enter his heart. They could only be regarded as confidants, not wives. Although it was a pity, they did not regret it. They were willing to serve Tianyun for the rest of their lives. On the altar, Tianyun held Shi Shuyan's little hand and said with a faint smile, "I said that the three realms would be your dowry. Did you do it now?" Shi Shuyan held his warm big hand tightly and gently leaned into his arms. Looking at the many powerhouses below the altar, she smiled slightly and said, "It's good to live a peaceful life. There's no need to be so grand, I understand, but sometimes, you should have your own part of things." Tianyun looked up at the sky and gently waved his hand. Immediately, colorful clouds appeared in the sky, fluttering in the sky. Immediately, 5 colorful lights shrouded them and shone on them. Under this situation, everyone suddenly rejoiced. This meant that the ceremony had officially begun. Immediately, he held Shi Shuyan's little hand and said with a faint smile, "Shuyan, are you willing to marry me?" "I am willing." Shi Shuyan nodded. Her eyes were already wet with tears. These were tears of happiness. "Then, I, Tianyun, hereby announce that Shi Shuyan and I are husband and wife." He didn't say anything too fancy, nor did he exaggerate too much. He just announced it simply like that. Shi Shuyan's tears immediately gushed out. There was no confession more moving than this. Under the witness of everyone in the three realms, they became husband and wife and received the blessings of everyone in the three realms. Apart from them, no one else could have such an honor. Chapter 885. The grand wedding ended just like that. The entire three realms rejoiced, and only stopped after 3 days and 3 nights. To cultivators, 3 days and 3 nights was not much time at all. However, it was enough for them to enjoy themselves to witness the union of a perfect couple. Especially when they saw the woman chosen by the god of the three realms, they knew exactly who it was. After it ended, Tianyun continued to make arrangements. He set up all sorts of formations and strengthened most of them. As for other things, there was no need for him to arrange them. It was enough for Shi Shuyan and the others to stay here. In the starry sky outside the three realms, Tianyun had also set up quite a few large formations. Generally speaking, they were all illusion formations and reminder formations. However, he didn't know if it would be of any use. After all, he planned to leave this place and take a look at the outside world. After this great battle, he felt that he still had many shortcomings. The outside world was simply too vast and powerful. He knew that the evil spirit race's overall strength was very strong. He captured one of the evil spirit races and after charming him, he managed to get a lot of information out of him. As his authority wasn't high enough, he didn't know much information. However, he already had a rough idea of what was going on. The final result was that the evil spirit race was very strong, unbelievably strong. How strong could it be? The one that was sent this time could only be considered a captain. He was called a general, but in reality, according to the division here, he was about the same as a deacon. A deacon, an ordinary deacon. A deacon was already so powerful. If they sent someone even stronger, they would definitely die. The next time they attacked, they would definitely be well prepared. If his cultivation was insufficient, the only result would be death. It would be difficult to continue leveling up here. Even if all the resources in the three realms were to be thrown at him, it would be useless. He needed too much experience right now. To be cruel, even if all the cultivators in the three realms were to be slaughtered by him, he probably wouldn't be able to level up by 1 or 2 levels. He needed too much experience right now, and it was even more impossible for him to kill the cultivators of the three realms. Thus, he had to leave this place and go to a wider world. If he could get to know more experts outside, it would be of great help to him, and it would be even more possible for him to deal with the evil spirit race together. It's about time. After arranging these formations, Yi Tianyun returned to the mortal world and held a meeting. Summon all the rulers of the three realms for a meeting. After the announcement was made, they quickly rushed over, not knowing what to announce. After everyone had arrived, Yi Tianyun sat on top and swept his gaze across everyone before saying, "I'm preparing to leave the three realms and head to the outside world." What? Everyone was shocked. Only Shi Shuiyan, who was at the side, remained calm, as if she had already expected this. Yi Tianyun never told anyone about this, including his wife, Shi Shuiyan. He didn't say a word about it. "Leader, you can't leave. If you leave, what will happen to us?" "That's right. Isn't this a group of dragons without a leader? You're our leader." None of them were willing to let Yi Tianyun leave. Yi Tianyun was their guardian. Without him, what would they do if the evil spirit race attacked in the future? "I think what you're more worried about is that I'll be like the 3 divine kings from before and never return." Yi Tianyun said what they were truly worried about. They were all kings, and no one was better at managing a country than them. They were only worried that Yi Tianyun would never return. How could they not be worried without a powerful god king guarding them? The 3 divine kings had left without returning, which was already enough to make people despair. If not for Yi Tianyun's appearance, the 3 realms would have been finished long ago. They could imagine that the evil spirit race would make a comeback. At that time, without Yi Tianyun, how could they withstand it? Now that he had exposed their thoughts with a single sentence, many of the country leaders had awkward expressions on their faces. That was indeed what they were thinking. "Don't worry, they won't be coming so quickly for the time being. It's not advisable to just rely on me alone. All of you have to work hard and make yourself stronger. Only then can the 3 realms be stabilized." Yi Tianyun looked at them and said in a deep voice, "But you don't have to worry. If there's danger here, I'll rush back quickly." Everyone was just listening. Who knew how long it would take to rush back? Others might not be able to rush back quickly, but Yi Tianyun could. He had a heaven-defying treasure, teleportation god's stone. As long as he used this thing anywhere, he would be able to teleport back immediately. This was why he was not worried. No matter where he went or if he was trapped, he could teleport back with a teleportation god's stone. Of course, he could not say for sure if it would ignore all the laws. Perhaps the area outside could prevent him from teleporting back. Everyone fell silent. However, They could tell that Tianyun had already made up his mind. There was no way to change it. I'll leave the matters of the three realms to you. I believe that you'll definitely protect the three realms well. It won't be invaded by external enemies. Tianyun looked at them and said. Then, he explained the general situation. Basically, the meeting was dismissed. The reason why Tianyun asked them to come was to explain the situation. In addition, he announced that Shi Shuyan would be the manager of the mortal realm. Everything would be based on her words. After everyone left, only Tianyun and Shi Shuyan were left in the hall. The rest of them tactfully left. They all knew that the one who was truly sad was Shi Shuyan. Not long after they got married, Tianyun was about to leave. How could she not be sad? Tianyun reached out and pulled her to sit down. They did not speak. They just quietly hugged each other. After a while, Shi Shuyan said, I'll wait for you to come back. Silly girl, I'll come back at any time. Tianyun reached out and pinched her nose. He smiled and said, when you miss me, I'll appear in front of you. Don't tease me. You must pay attention to keeping a low profile outside. Although I don't know the situation outside, I know it's very dangerous. Tianyun, you must be safe. Not only for me, but also for our child. She gently stroked her belly. They already had a child. It was not difficult to get pregnant. Especially since both of them were quite talented. The probability of them getting pregnant was very high. Tianyun reached out and stroked her belly. He smiled gently and said, I know, they did not talk too much. After staying here for a while, Tianyun left this star field. Before leaving, only Shi Shuyan saw him off. Tianyun did not want too many people to see him off. It was too troublesome. You must come back. If he wanted this place to never be discovered by other forces, there was only one solution, and that was to exterminate the evil spirit race. I'll be back soon. Tianyun turned his head back and was instantly scared out of his wits. In front of him was a huge rock. He quickly steered the spirit ship to the side. With a loud bang, the giant spirit ship began to shake. Just like that, a large chunk of the huge rock was smashed away. If the spirit ship were to collide with this thing, it would definitely be fine, but if it were to collide with this thing, Tianyun would probably be thrown out. Fortunately, he was able to avoid this huge rock in a hurry. Phew, it's really difficult to control this thing. Tianyun wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Not only was it difficult, but it also consumed a lot of spiritual power. In just a short time, he had used up almost half of his spiritual power. No wonder so many Saint King stage powerhouses were sucked dry. At this rate of consumption, it wouldn't be long before he was completely sucked dry. However, he felt that it was still very cost-effective. The speed was too fast, dozens of times faster than his flying speed. If he flew outside with his body, the degree of danger would be even greater. But inside this spirit ship, not only was it fast, but it was also very safe. With a lot of control, Yang Kai felt that he was more proficient in controlling the spirit ship. He had to admit that it required a lot of spiritual power. In this aspect, it required a lot of spiritual power, otherwise it would be impossible to control this thing. No wonder after being sucked dry several times in a row, even after the operator was killed, no one was able to control this spirit ship. It was really difficult to learn in a short time. If he wasn't careful and fell into the black vortex, he would be dead for sure. After becoming proficient, he was finally able to observe the situation around him. There was basically no life around him. From a distance, he could see many planets floating in the air. Some looked bare, while others were covered with plants. These planets looked very ordinary, and there were no cultivators living in them. They were basically just rocks. However, even if there were cultivators living here, General Long Tay and the others weren't interested. The reason they came here was to seize the core. By capturing some evil spirit race people and interrogating them, he roughly learned a few more important things. First of all, this place was very far away. Even if the spirit ship flew crazily here without stopping, it would still take more than 10 years. The premise was that they couldn't stop flying for even a moment. Sometimes they would need to rest, so it would take about 15 years to reach this place. For those at the Saint King stage, 15 years was really not a big deal, so the cultivation meeting was over. Moreover, the evil spirit race was really powerful. He wouldn't go straight to the evil spirit race's ancestral land. That would be no different from throwing his life away. Even if he had the evil spirit race puppets, he wouldn't dare to do that. If he was seen through one day, he could escape, but that was not the result he wanted. In any case, he just needed to quickly increase his cultivation, and then when they came to invade, he would come back to suppress them and earn a wave of experience. It was that simple. Since he didn't know who they would send, the best thing he could do was to quickly increase his cultivation. After stabilizing the spirit ship, Yi Tianyun took out the god's star plate. This was a rare item he obtained from killing demon god Soth. At that time, he played with it and found that it was actually a starry sky map. General Long Tay also had a star plate, but it wasn't as comprehensive as this one. They weren't on the same level at all. After opening it, a huge star river map appeared in front of him. The three realms were in an extremely small corner. This was a known corner. As for the evil spirit race's ancestral land, it was in another corner. This star plate was divided into many areas, and these areas were collectively known as the Divine Domain. The Divine Domain was divided into large and small areas. The closer one was to the center, the higher the level. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.